Chapter 306. Sun Lang was not wrong at all. The reason why Xia Agui and Kong Zhongwu refused to take out the source egg was very simple. They had already tasted the wonders of power, so how could they be willing to give it up? They were once the lowliest people on this land, but after gaining power, money and power came with it. Perhaps everything was like what the iron-headed ape had said. Even if they were noble humans, disguised by their magnificent civilization and beautiful etiquette, they still followed the law of the jungle, where the strong preyed on the weak. On this land, the strong could obtain everything, and the weak could only be plundered. Then, the question was very simple. These two people who had once been plundered, after enjoying the wonderful taste of power and power, after becoming the people they once despised and envied, would they still be willing to return to the past? No one was willing. Even if there was a risk to their lives, they still had to take a gamble. People die for wealth. Birds die for food. Power, wealth, power. Countless people were driven by desire, chasing after these like moths to a flame, not caring about their lives. Was it laughable? Was it despicable? Was it sad? Zhang was clearly very surprised. She waved her tentacles and asked doubtfully, "Why did you refuse? You have to know that you are facing the threat of your life at any time. Without your life, what is the use of martial arts?" Xiaogue was silent for a moment, then shook his head and said, "You don't understand. You won't understand. Your life is good. Although you are a servant, you are still a servant of the Liu family, and also the nanny of your family's young miss. You don't have to worry about food and clothing, and when you are old, you have someone to take care of you. So you definitely don't understand how we have survived these years. You definitely don't know how it feels to be weak since young, unable to even do farm work well, unable to support yourself. You definitely don't know how it feels to sell your ancestral land to a rich family in order to treat your father's illness. You definitely don't know how it feels to be all alone, not knowing what to do, wandering the streets a loss, being looked down upon by others, being mocked by others. Any random cat or dog in the village would raise their fist and hit me if they were in a bad mood. Even the most unlucky people in the village would make fun of me. I went to the city to learn my craft. I went to Zhao Laoxi's house to do some part-time work. I wanted to live a more stable life, but time and time again, I couldn't. Later, I realized that no matter if I worked hard to improve myself or if I gave up on myself, the result was the same. There was no improvement, and I was down and out. At that time, I didn't understand why I was still like this even though I work hard. Could it be that I was born like this? Should the poor be poor all their lives? In the end, I found out. Xia Agui's face showed a complicated and twisted expression, and he laughed wildly. F***CK. As expected, not bad at all. In this world, the so-called humility and tolerance, the so-called steadfastness and steadfastness, the so-called good people will live a peaceful life. The so-called good and evil will be repaid. All of these are F***king bullshit. He roared. Only power is everything. When I was weak, I lived like a dog. No one even looked at me properly. When I'm strong, I can get whatever I want. I can bully whoever I want. Those who once bullied me, all of them have to apologize to me and please me. This was the way of the world. People with power are above others, and people without power are pigs and dogs that can be trampled on. Xia Agui's eyes were like lightning as he stared coldly at Chong and said sternly, "Tell me, do you want to be a pig and dog that can live a long life and be trampled on by others? Or do you want to be an indomitable person? Even if I die, I want to die standing upright. I want to fight for this great fortune." Saying so, he looked sharply at the farmer. "Farmer, your position is unclear. I don't believe you. I also know that you have a wooden personality, cowardly and afraid of trouble, and are a spineless puppet. Take out the source egg and leave this sea of bitterness." Then he looked at fourth sister-in-law Dan, and his tone became gentler. "Fourth sister-in-law, you've already avenged yourself, and you have a peaceful personality. It's not worth it to do such a thing. I've saved a lot of money over the years, and I'll give it all to you. You were originally a good and stable woman, and it's only fate that made you this far. Today, You should take the opportunity to leave and find an honest man to marry. Xia Ague smiled bitterly. I still want to sigh. A scoundrel like me doesn't have that blessing. I only hope that you can untie the knot in your heart and start a new life. If the heavens take pity on me this time, and I'm still alive, then I'll repay the kindness of saving my life. If you don't abandon me, I'm willing to recognize you as my sister. Your matter, I'll do my best. If you marry, I'll carry the sedan chair for you. If you don't marry, I'll look after the house for you. When fourth sister-in-law Dan heard the word marry, her face flushed with shame and resistance. She was originally a cowardly widow with 3 obedience and 4 virtues. How could she do such a shocking thing like remarrying? Even now, the social atmosphere of the empire was still very tolerant and supportive of widows remarrying. This was not strange. First of all, the empire was founded on martial arts. Women could also become masters of their generation, and they were not inferior to men. It was not a problem for them to enter the imperial court as a minister or be given the title of a marquis. Therefore, it was not strange for women to have a certain social status. Second, the war lasted for decades. The soldiers died in the war, and the people were in a terrible situation. The population was sharply reduced, and the country was shaken. As long as the ruler didn't eat shit, the first thing to do was to encourage fertility and increase the population. But even so, fourth sister-in-law Dan still blushed and shook her head. I don't want to marry. Xia Ague sighed. It's up to you, it's all up to you. Madam Dan, let's do it now. First, let's take off this farmer and use him as a sample to see if your skills are good enough. Who knew that Zhang slowly shook his head. No, I can't. Xia Ague was stunned at first, and then he became angry. Are you making fun of us? You don't understand. Zhang said indifferently. The source eggs in your 8 distresses have a strange connection with each other. The sleeping larvae can sense each other. Once a source egg is forcefully taken out, the larvae will directly die. Before the larvae die, they will emit a strange resonance. Through this resonance, the source eggs and the other people will directly awaken. And you? Yes, you know. Xia Ague frowned. Then you said you can. Zhang waved his tentacles. Of course I can, but only the 4 of you can come at the same time. I have to take out all 4 source eggs at the same time to ensure your safety. If I only save 1 person at a time, the remaining 3 will die. The matter suddenly reached a deadlock. Xia Ague and the others looked at each other, unwillingness and conflict flashing across their faces. Xia Ague was absolutely unwilling to give up this power. But the price was that the bet was no longer limited to his own life. He also had to bet fourth sister-in-law's life on the table. This was obviously not a small blow to him, who was grateful to fourth sister-in-law for saving his life not long ago and was determined to repay her kindness. At this moment, Sun Lang suddenly said, 8 distresses, 8 distresses. But other than the dead Hua Xiaoshuan, Jujin old lady, and Xianglin sister-in-law, there are only 4 people left. Who is the remaining Wu Yun Qi Shang? Zhang sighed. Do you still need to ask? When Sun Lang heard this, he frowned. You're saying it's her? No. His expression changed slightly, and he looked coldly at Zhang. It's Aunt Lu? Zhang nodded and said softly, the Wu Yun is the Wu Yin. When the Wu Yin gathers to form the body, the first 7 distresses are born from this. The Wu Yin is color, receiving, thinking, action, and knowledge. The color Yin is flourishing, and the 4 elements are not in harmony, causing the pain of illness. The receiving Yin is flourishing, causing the pain of all the distresses. The thinking Yin is flourishing, causing the heart of pursuit. There's the pain of parting, resentment, and not being able to get what one wants. The acting Yin is flourishing, causing karma to arise. There's the pain of aging. The knowledge Yin is flourishing, causing the creation of karma, life and death. In short, the Wu Yun Qi Sheng is the source of the 7 distresses. When the host of the 7 distresses grows, the larvae awaken and mature, absorbing the essence of life and returning to the origin. When all the power flows back to the Wu Yun Qi Sheng, the ritual is completed, and the most perfect and complete sacrifice is obtained to be used as a sacrifice. Sun Lang clicked his tongue. I didn't expect you to be so logical when you claimed to be a country bumpkin. Zhang was stunned for a moment, then said with a calm expression, Miss told me all of this. Her feelings towards me are very complicated. On one hand, she is very cruel. On the other hand, she is very lonely. She is doing something big, but there is no one to share her burden and listen to her talk. I am a monster that never sees the light of day, so I'm naturally the best listener. Sun Lang was stunned for a moment and nodded slowly. Yes, she has always been very lonely. He thought of something else. Then, what is the mechanism for the larvae to awaken? Are there any conditions? Who is controlling it? Are there any restrictions? In other words, can the bitch personality directly control the awakening of the source egg? For example, if Xia Agui is drinking and singing, will the giant centipede in his body suddenly jump out? Even though Xia Agui had a lot on his mind and his emotions were complicated, he was still shocked. She can, but there are many restrictions. First of all, the source eggs in the 7 distresses bodies are planted at different times, and they also mature at different times. Secondly, the energy stored in the 7 distresses bodies is enormous and varied. If they all break out at the same time, the 7 energies will flow back at the same time, and her body will instantly explode. Zhang sighed. So, in order to deal with this situation, she chose a shortcut and used the flying centipede as the energy carrier. The mature flying centipede can be controlled by her. Moreover, the flying centipede has a special characteristic. A mature flying centipede can attack another host and then eat the host's spine, swallowing it along with the dormant source egg. This way, the flying centipede can store the energy of 2 hosts at the same time. After she finished speaking, she looked at Sun Lang. Do you understand what I am saying? Sun Lang pondered for a moment, then nodded. Hua Xiaoshuan should have been killed by the bitch. At that time, we were fighting in the arena. Chao, Patao, and the others came to find me, and coincidentally bumped into Hua Xiaoshuan. The bitch saw that there was no time like the present, so she directly awakened the source egg and killed Hua Xiaoshuan. Our town's Li Zheng had already been parasitized by the flying centipede, and also listened to her orders. He rushed ahead and hung the corpse in the Liu family's main hall. The flying centipede woke up during this process, ate the spine, broke out of the body, and laid an ambush in the 100 garden, waiting for an opportunity to kill the Jiujin old lady who had left the team. What's with that Xianglin saw? Oh, she's one of the 5 distresses, and her brain isn't very good. There are too many ways to lure her away. Next, maybe the flying centipede ate too much and hadn't digested it, or maybe the farmer and the widow's martial arts were high, and their vigilance was raised to the extreme. Their battle strength was soaring, so the flying centipede didn't have a chance of winning, and chose to temporarily give up. Sun Lang pondered as he deduced what had happened. Pieces of the puzzle reconstructed the scene at that time. Later, these 2 guys panicked and didn't know where to go, and raced on the streets. As a law-abiding citizen of the Empire, I was dissatisfied. I taught them how to behave, and they were beaten up by me, but the bitch also saw it. Although the bitch had the ability to awaken the flying centipede in their bodies, Chao Patao and I were next to them. How could those 2 flying centipedes survive? After killing the flying centipede, how could the energy fluctuations that flowed back to Annie Lu's body be hidden from my eyes? Later, I became suspicious of Annie Lu and ordered Chao Patao to increase the surveillance. The bitch couldn't find a chance to do anything for a while, and she also knew that I was on guard against her, so there was nothing she could do. In addition, I caught Kong and Xia on the way. Now, 4 of the 8 distresses fell into my hands. The situation was unprecedentedly unfavorable for her, so she had to find another plan. So, she used the hatred of her family's destruction to have a fierce conflict with Kong Zhongwu. Then, she spread the flames of war to other people and took the opportunity to act up. While I was interrogating Xia Agui, she angrily rushed out of the door. Her timing and reason for running away from home were so good that Chao Pitao was caught off guard for a while, and she ran away. At this time, Zhao Laosi and He Chunlai had become mutated species that were parasitized by ordinary flying centipedes. Under her orders, they came to find trouble and happened to block me when I was about to go out to look for her. During this short period of time, she had a chance to catch her breath, and it gave her the opportunity to calmly arrange a new plan. For example, she arranged a series of plans to target me. For example, she took back the energy of the flying centipede that broke out of Hua Xiaoshuan's body and absorbed 9 kilograms of the old woman's life essence. So, among the 8 distresses, the power of sickness and old was retrieved by her, and her power suddenly increased greatly. In the 100 Garden, she practically transformed into a great druid, which gave her the illusion that she could negotiate with me. So, on Bamboo Mountain, a demon altar rushed to Jianxing. She was already prepared for the negotiation to fail, and a new plan to target the 7 distresses was launched. Well, now it seems that the bitch wasn't suppressed in the sea of consciousness that night, but took the initiative to lurk and confuse me. This bitch is really stubborn. The next plan was simply perfect and extremely coincidental. First, Comrade Ironhead Ape gave her a godly assist and successfully created a perfect, empty environment. She was overjoyed and directly ordered the Black Profound Wave, which was on standby, to trick Xia Ague and the others away. She could control the source egg, and although she didn't dare to directly make the flying centipedes hatch, she should have a way to make them temporarily unconscious. At this time, Chao Pitao was still watching her closely, and I could return at any time. She didn't dare to do anything that would attract attention, so she decided to take an unconventional approach. She decided to confuse us here, and secretly brought the 4 of them to Bamboo Mountain. I think there's no need to say more about the use of this demon altar. He looked at Zhang and smiled meaningfully. Is that so? Chapter 307. So there's such a story. Chang sighed. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, from your description and my own knowledge, it should be close to the truth. She continued, she probably wants to complete the awakening ceremony at the altar here in one go. First, the flying centipede and sister-in-law Xianglin's body will hatch. Then, she will kill the remaining 4 people one by one, devour the source eggs in their bodies, absorb their life essence, and use the Shifter clan's altar here to harmonize the different powers, fusing the 5 source powers into one, so that she can safely absorb them all at once. Sun Lang smiled. But the plan went awry, just like that. Chang shook his head, a strange smile appearing at the corners of his mouth. She's very scheming and cautious. Although she couldn't personally come here to guard the array, how could she allow any accidents to happen? She had already arranged 2 sets of insurance to ensure that the sacrificial ceremony would be foolproof. Sun Lang thought for a moment, then smiled. But obviously, all 3 sets of insurance failed. Chang said indifferently. The first set, she told Black King to wait outside. If something went wrong, he could immediately rush in to stop it or interrupt the ceremony or save the flying centipede to ensure that nothing went wrong. But I found an excuse and coaxed Black King to come over, saying that there might be an invasion today, and she was in charge of the defense with the hidden rats. I didn't expect you guys to really come. Hey, Xian Dang was first stunned, then anger appeared on her face. But before she could do anything, Chang continued. Then she originally arranged for Xianglin Saw to first break the limbs of these people before the ceremony, then immediately start the ceremony. This way, they wouldn't have any energy left to resist, and, on the other hand, it would ensure that their vitality and strength were intact. However, I secretly controlled the Genesis egg to make her hallucinate, telling her that she would be free once she died, and that she would be able to go to the sky without any worries and see her en Mao. Xia Ague and the others' expressions suddenly changed, and they all took a step back. You can control the Genesis egg? That's right. A strange smile appeared on Ah Chang's face. I was the one who injected the Genesis egg into your bodies. She and I have an irreconcilable blood feud. Although I was forced to work for her, how can I be so loyal? All these years, I've been looking for an opportunity to rebel. How could I not have a backup plan? Sun Lang seemed to be deep in thought. Suddenly, he said, "You probably didn't expect me to come looking for you, did you? What plans do you have if I don't come?" Ah Zhang said calmly, "If you don't come, I'll have to resort to this." She slowly blinked her eyes and said in a strange tone, "That person has been secretly planning something big for the past few years. All his painstaking efforts, all his calculations, and all his schemes are for this so-called Ji-Du. Since the awakening of Ji-Du falls on 7 distresses, then as long as I stop all of this, it could be considered as venting my anger." When Sun Lang heard this, his expression changed. He said with a smile that was not a smile, "How? There may be only one way to succeed, but there are too many ways to fail." Ah Zhang glanced at the group and slowly said, "The best outcome would be for them to arrive here unscathed and for me to retrieve the Genesis egg for them. Everyone will be safe and sound. The worst-case scenario would be for me to command the rat pack to bite them to death and then devour them clean before crushing the Genesis egg. This would also achieve our goal." The group's expressions turned exceptionally ugly. Sun Lang chuckled softly. "Then you didn't have to tell the truth just now. You could have said you could take out the Genesis egg one by one to trick them into coming forward. After you took out the Genesis egg for this widow's sister, the parasites in the others' bodies would act up and bite them to death. Wouldn't that have succeeded?" Ah Chang's expression changed. After a moment of silence, he slowly shook his head and said, "There are 3 reasons. First, if I had any killing intent, you would definitely have seen through it. Whether or not I could succeed is another matter. Second, these children are the Genesis eggs that I planted with my own hands. They are all pitiful people, no different from me. I'm already hopeless in my current state, but they still have a chance to live. If it wasn't for the fact that it was impossible, I wouldn't have harmed them. Third," she looked at Sun Lang and said frankly, "I want to gain your trust. I want to ask you to do something for me." "I can't do it, but you can." Sun Lang thought for a moment. "You want me to save Aunt Lu?" "Yes." Ah Chang nodded. From the looks of it, the pain of the 5 accumulations burning should be in that person's body. When the 7 people's power flows back, the 5 accumulations will burn and return to the origin. Her power will be raised to the limit. Not only will she be able to awaken Ji-Du, she will even be able to destroy young Miss Soul and completely control her body. Sun Lang nodded, killing several birds with 1 stone. What a scheming bitch. Ah Chang looked at Sun Lang, his tone turning urgent. "I want to ask you to save young Miss. You are old acquaintances with her, right? You can't bear to see her in such a state, right?" The ranger frowned. "If it's to kill someone, it's easy. But the bitch's personality is entrenched in Aunt Lu's body and seems to be of the same origin as her. Is there any way to get rid of her without harming Aunt Lu?" "There is." Ah Chang's gaze was resolute, his tone firm. "Destroy Ji-Du. No matter what it is, as long as Ji-Du is destroyed, all her plans will fail. If Ji-Du is faced with the danger of destruction, it will instinctively struggle to survive, awaken in advance, and desperately absorb power. Then, the demon that has taken over young Miss' body will be forcefully sucked out along with the essence of Hua Xiaoshuan, Zhou Jin's old lady and Xiangling's wife. This way, young Miss will be completely free from that demon. Is this feasible?" Sun Lang frowned. "It sounds very far-fetched. Also, if Ji-Du awakens in advance and absorbs power, then Xia Ague and the rest will lose their lives." Chang looked at the 4 of them, a hint of relief flashing in his eyes, as if he had made a decision. He said softly, "This place is very far from Lu Town, and in the middle of the mountain. It won't be affected by Ji-Du. You won't believe me if I say this. To be on the safe side, I advise you to take out the source egg. Are you still unwilling to agree?" 4th sister-in-law's eyes flashed with interest, but she looked at the other 3, hesitated for a moment, and did not say anything. The farmer quietly clenched his fists, his eyes flashing, but no one knew what he was saying. Xia Ague still had a fiery temper. He said sternly, "Absolutely not." Kong Zhongwu hesitated for a moment, then asked softly, "Can we take it out first, then put it back in afterwards?" Xia Ague was stunned. F asterisk CKme? Why didn't I think of that? But Ah Chong shook his head. The source egg leaves the host early. It's death. How can it be put back? There's no shortcut in this matter. Think about it again. Xia Age did not hesitate, and was about to refuse again, but then he thought of fourth sister-in-law Dan. He turned his head and showed an apologetic expression. "Fourth sister-in-law, I'm not a good person. I can't repay the kindness of saving my life. But my life's honor and disgrace all depends on this. I can't give up my martial arts. Please forgive me this time." Fourth sister-in-law Dan was stunned for a moment, then shook her head, showing a gentle smile. She looked at the farmer, then slowly but firmly shook her head. "Brother Ague, you don't have to be so polite. I also don't want to give up my martial arts." Xia Ague was stunned at first, then followed fourth sister-in-law Dan's gaze to look at the farmer. He was confused for a moment, then showed a look of understanding. With a complicated expression, he said, "Farmer, you also—" The farmer did not answer. He turned his head to look at fourth sister-in-law Dan, as if he saw something in her eyes. He smiled bitterly. He did not know what to say. Then he turned his head, looked at Ah Chong, and firmly said, "I also refuse. I can't lose my martial arts now." "Run to? Why even you?" Ah Chong looked at him in surprise, sighed. "You're a steady and honest child. Now that your troubles have been solved and you don't have any desire for fame and fortune, why don't you take the opportunity to get rid of this sea of bitterness and live a peaceful life?" The farmer was still expressionless. He whispered, "Not yet. I did nothing in the past. I let Missy down. Now that Missy is in trouble, I don't want to abandon her. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "The Five Savages Society, the Eight Distresses Society, the decline of the Liu family, the change in the herb garden. Over the years, countless disasters have happened in Liu Town. That flying centipede has infected countless people and killed countless people. Although it wasn't done by eldest miss, she will definitely blame it on me. Now that the time is ripe and the final battle is about to arrive, I don't know how many evil plans and tricks that evil woman still has. I can't let her harm more people and increase eldest Mrs. guilt." Speaking of this, he sighed, "I have to keep this useful body. See if I can do something." Hearing this, Ah Chong showed a surprised look. With a complicated expression, he said, "You also see it?" The farmer smiled bitterly. "Although I'm a good-for-nothing, a pile of mud that can't be helped, I'm not stupid. I grew up with Missy when I was young. How can I not see it and not think of it?" The others were confused, but Sun Lang said lightly, "Oh, it seems that the two of you have already discovered that the soul that occupied Annie Lu's body is not some resurrected demon, but another evil Lu Shujian. No wonder you still call her Missy sometimes." Ah Chong showed a smile that was uglier than crying. He said hoarsely, She wasn't evil before, but why did she become like this? I'm her mother. I watched her grow up. I watched over her. I told her stories. I bought her the 3 hum mantras. Why did she turn me into a monster? Why did she torture me? Why did she do such things to me? I should hate her to the core. But why can't I hate her?" Her voice was sharp and ear-piercing, like a monster, but the sadness in her voice made everyone sigh. She was crying and laughing, as if she wanted to vent all the grievances she had suffered all these years. In a strangely colored pool, a terrifying monster was roaring towards the sky, its nimble tentacles constantly slapping the surface of the water. She was laughing, howling, shouting loudly, and inspecting with all her might. Then Xiage and the other three's faces changed, their bodies stiffened, and could not help but feel dizzy, as if something big had happened in their bodies. They staggered a few steps, almost falling, their stomachs churning. They opened their mouths to vomit, but nothing came out. The few of them knelt on the ground powerlessly, looking at Ah Chong in shock. Seeing this strange change, Sun Lang wanted to raise his hand to kill Ah Chong. But in the next moment, he tilted his head to listen, revealing a surprised look, and slowly put down his hand. Then he heard Hey Xian Dang say in shock, "Hidden rat. How did the hidden rat die?" At this moment, the frustration in Xia Ague and the rest quickly subsided. They looked at each other and felt refreshed, as though they had lost some terrifying shackles on their bodies. The few of them were deep in thought and looked at Ah Chong. Ah Chong had already slowly calmed down, meeting everyone's gaze, revealing a faint smile. "I secretly did something, whether it was the source egg, the hidden rat, or the flying centipede. I can't control the monsters in the 100 Herb Garden, but these little fellows in my hands are no longer a threat." She looked towards Sun Lang as her tone turned urgent. "I've already found a way to sever the connection between the Genesis eggs and the eldest miss, but I don't know much about this and don't know if she has any backup plans." The flying centipede in sister-in-law Xianglin's body was forcefully killed, and the energy contained within it has already flowed back into her body. It will definitely make her feel good for a while, but she has most likely recovered by now. You should hurry and go. Hurry. Chang's expression suddenly changed, and she vomited a few mouthfuls of blood. There were fragments of some kind of organs left behind. She was stunned for a moment, and her face revealed an expression that seemed to be both laughing and crying. I am your mother," the farmer cried out involuntarily. "Mother Chong, you." Ah Chong smiled bitterly. "I ruined her plans. She's going to throw a tantrum at me." After she finished speaking, her face suddenly twisted, as if a great pain had suddenly befallen her. She looked up to the sky and howled in grief. The blood vessels in her body ruptured, and strange colored blood continuously spurted out. She was dripping with blood. She actually cried again and said to herself, "Do you resent me? Why do you resent me? Are you resenting me for squeezing you during your afternoon nap? Or are you resenting me for liking cha? Are you resenting me for plotting the death of your hidden mouse? Or are you resenting me for complaining to your mother? Am I really that hateful?" The bones in her body emitted a series of explosive sounds. Her entire body had already turned into a bloody person. This bloodstained monster seemed to have already lost her consciousness. She kept wailing, complaining, and resentful. But you turned me into this. But you made me unable to see my child again. You are also my child. How can I hate you?" She looked so miserable, and her cries were so heart-wrenching. The farmer and Xia Ague did not care about her strange appearance. They wanted to rush over to save her, but Sun Lang sighed. "It's useless." He looked at Ah Chong and said gently, "Any last words?" Although the voice was soft, it rang in Ah Chang's ears. In an instant, the monster regained her last bit of clarity. Her muddled thoughts were replaced by sobriety for the first time. She suddenly looked at Sun Lang. Save her. She became like this only because she... Then her eyes suddenly widened, and her entire body trembled a few times. She suddenly jumped up and then fell heavily back into the pool. She breathed her last. Chapter 308. The atmosphere instantly became stagnant. The farmer was stunned for a moment. Then he suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed a few times. Then he pressed his head against the ground and let out a suppressed, muffled cry. He did not know if it was because of Ah Zhang's death or because of something else that he could not believe or accept. Xia Agui looked at Ah Zhang's corpse. A complicated look flashed across his eyes. In the end, he sighed and also kowtowed a few times. After getting up, he reached out to pull the farmer, but he could not move him. On the other side, Kong Zhongwu and sister-in-law Dan also sighed and bowed. No matter what grudges there were between the two, Ah Zhang had sacrificed his life to save them. Such kindness could not be ignored. Sister-in-law Dan's face turned red when she saw Xia Ague's gaze, but she still walked to the farmer and helped him up. Only then did she hear the farmer say with a hoarse voice, How could she do this? How could she do this?" Xia Ague frowned and said impatiently, "If you are angry, then slap her. Why are you still acting like this? Are you still a man? Why are you dawdling like this? Get up." The farmer was rarely angry and said coldly, "What do you know?" "Oh, I don't know, but I know that every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. A farmer like you only knows how to kowtow to people. If you are a man, then go and avenge her. Xia Ague glared at him. What are you looking at? What are you going to do? Do you want to fight? The two sides were at daggers drawn. Sun Lang shrugged. You guys take your time talking. I'm leaving. Xia Ague's spirits were lifted when he heard this. He pushed the farmer to one side and moved closer to Sun Lang with a bashful smile. Although Ah Chong had just resolved the threat of the Genesis egg, he still felt somewhat uneasy in his heart. If he wanted to settle this matter once and for all, the lives of his family would still be in the hands of this great master before him. He smiled. Where are you going, master? I am willing to serve you. Sun Lang glanced at him and smiled. I'm going to find that bitch to argue with her personality. Do you want to go first? What if Ah Zhang's abilities are limited, or the bitch has other tricks up her sleeve and can still awaken the source egg? Then it would not be good for you to sacrifice yourself before the victory of the revolution. Xia Ague was a little scared, but when he saw Sun Lang's faint smile, he still gritted his teeth and said, This lowly one's life was saved by my lord, so this lowly one should also be sold to my lord. Since you want to take the lead, this lowly one should do the same. I will follow your lead. Sun Lang laughed when he heard this. He nodded and said, Sensible, you know how to talk. You're very smart. Xia Ague nodded repeatedly and laughed bitterly in his heart. Nonsense, you can kill me with a single finger. I have no choice but to repay your kindness, let alone being the vanguard. Even if you ask me to eat sh*t, I will still go. The ranger did not know what he was thinking and smiled gently. You are a promising talent. It would be a pity if you died in the novice village. I like smart and motivated young people like you. Back in the day, I also cultivated many talents like you. For example, Achio, Shaosong, and Zhuozai. I heard that they have now grown into mature and outstanding people. You have to work hard too and not lose to your seniors. Although he did not know who these people were, but they could not be too bad since they had followed the master. Xia Ague nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Sun Lang thought for a while and nodded. Yes, I think the bitch is so cunning that she must have some tricks up her sleeve. You have to be on guard. But in this battle, your ranks are restrained. If you go up against the bitch, you will only be sending yourself to death. The value of your existence is comparable to Alash's victory speech. Xia Ague was stunned. Then what is it? Sun Lang showed a thoughtful expression. To be precise, I don't know what it is either. He thought seriously for a while, but could not come up with a conclusion. He waved his hand impatiently. Sigh, in short, you're a bunch of hindrances. Don't come and join in the fun. Stay away from Lu Zhan and do what you want. I'm going to fight the boss. Don't come and make trouble. Although Xia Ague felt that it was not very safe to entrust his life and fate to others, he also knew that Sun Lang was telling the truth. If that woman really had a way to reawaken the source egg, then wouldn't he be digging his own grave by foolishly following her to Lu Zhan? A wise man would not do something like walking into a trap. Therefore, he sighed and said, Forget it. My life depends on my lord. I wish you victory. If I can escape with my life today, I am willing to be a pawn for the rest of my life. Sun Lang nodded. The four of you should be careful. Take care of yourselves. He was about to leave when He Xiandang, who had been in a daze all the way until now, suddenly quivered. She flashed to Sun Lang's side and opened her arms to block him. She shouted, I want to go too. Sun Lang looked at her from the corner of his eyes. Apart from being separated by life and death, or being taken as a hostage and making trouble, what positive effect do you have? He Xiandang's expression froze. She knew that she could not reason with the person in front of her, but she still said loudly, I want to go. If you don't take me, I will secretly follow you or go by myself. Sun Lang looked at her and sighed. Sigh, I really don't know what to do with you. The snake beauty's face lit up. You agree? The ranger showed a gentle smile. Come with me. And Ape, get ready to work. Ah Chong said that there was not much time left. The three of them quickly left the cave and came out along the winding tunnel. The road was full of the corpses of the hidden rats. They were so densely packed that it was disgusting to look at them. With He, Xiandang leading the way, the three of them left Bamboo Mountain. Sun Lang stopped and turned to look at He Xiandang with a warm smile. The Snake Beauty's heart skipped a beat. She took a few steps back and said warily, "What are you doing?" Sun Lang smiled and waved at her. "Come, change back to your original form." "What?" "Just change back." Sun Lang smiled. "Do you think I'll eat you?" "Don't waste time. Your master is in danger. Don't delay the important matter because of you." The Snake Beauty liked this the most. Bringing out Master Lu was simply an all-purpose panacea. Although she still felt that it was somewhat inappropriate, she still transformed into her beast form. There was a flash of light, and in an instant, a huge black python coiled up in the air. Its ferocious and terrifying snake head stared at Sun Lang. Her impatient voice rang out. "What are you doing?" Sun Lang smiled. Then he raised his hand, clenched it, and gently hammered it. With a bang, the poor black python fell to the ground and fainted. Sun Lang smiled at the stunned, iron-head ape. "You stay here and watch over her. Don't let her do anything stupid. Well, when she wakes up naturally, come with her to Lu Town. At that time, everything will be settled." Iron-head ape was puzzled. "Master, don't you need me to go with you? Although my martial arts are low, my ability to control the monkeys is still useful. For example, if necessary, I can help disperse the people." Sun Lang glanced at He Xiandang. He thought for a moment and shook his head. "No need. You have another task. Take good care of her. Also those four. I always feel that I have neglected something. It's better to be safe than sorry. If something really happens, remember to help them." After saying that, he flashed toward Lu Town like a flickering light and passing shadow. Iron-head ape watched Sun Lang leave. He suddenly remembered something and shivered. "Master said that he doesn't need me to disperse the people. Is it because he is confident that he can suppress the conflict to Herb Garden and not affect the innocent? Or he doesn't care about the lives of unrelated people?" Sun Lang and others left in a hurry, leaving the four distresses in the cave. The farmer was still kneeling on the ground. His body was trembling slightly. He had not recovered from this blow. Shanxi's sister-in-law squatted beside him and comforted him softly. Kong Zhongwu and Xia Ague looked at each other. "What should we do now?" Xia Ague thought for a while and said, "The Lord has instructed us not to get too close to Lu Town, so we will listen to him. However, Bamboo Mountain is a strange place, and I do not want to stay here. Ping Xiao village is too close to here, and it is not very peaceful either. How about this? We go east, and, after crossing a few mountains, we will reach Wei Village. I am familiar with that place, so even if something happens, we will have the geographical advantage. If we go there, the terrain will be favorable." Kong Zhongwu also knew where Wei Village was. He nodded in agreement. He turned to look at the remaining two companions. "What do you think?" Shanxi's sister-in-law had no idea. She pulled the farmer and whispered, "What should we do?" The farmer raised his head and looked at Ah Chang's body floating in the pond. He said sadly, I want to bury Mama Chang first." Kong Zhongwu sighed softly. Although they were on different sides and could still be considered enemies to a certain extent, she was already dead and their grudges were settled. There was no need to be too calculative. Moreover, Ah Chang had sacrificed herself in the final moments of her life to remove the Genesis eggs from their bodies. That's how it should be. Kong Zhongwu frowned as he looked at Ah Zhang's corpse. This bloody, horrifying monster was floating in a pool of green water. It was disgusting and strange, and it was not pleasing to the eye. It made people instinctively feel disgusted. However, since Ah Zhang had saved his life, he could not care too much about it. Making up his mind, he was about to help when Xia Ague reached out to stop him and gave him a look. Kong Zhongwu did a double take. He did not know what was going on, but Xia Ague said, "If that's the case, we'll wait for you outside. We farmers live and die by fate. Don't take it to heart." Dumbo Kong was rudely dragged out by Xia Ague. It was only after they were out of the cave that he shook off Xia Ague's hand and complained quietly, "Are you afraid of dirtying your hands? Why did you have to drag me out then? We owe her a debt of gratitude for saving our lives." Letting her rest in peace is also a way of expressing our gratitude. How can we be picky and complain about this and that? Sia Ague snorted. You're a good man, and I'm not an ungrateful wretch. What's there to be afraid of? Still, didn't you see? The farmer isn't a bad mood. Compared to us, he was closer to Mama Chong and was more concerned about her death. Let's have fourth sister-in-law console him so that he can think things through and resolve the knot in his heart. When Kong Zhongwu heard this, he looked at Sia Ague in surprise. Didn't you dislike him? Sia Ague said coldly, I'm not an idiot. Do you think I can't tell that fourth sister-in-law is interested in him? That farmer may be a coward, but he's honest. Fourth sister-in-law won't be at a disadvantage if she follows him. Kong Zhongwu glanced at his companions and smiled meaningfully, as if remembering something. Sia Ague flew into a rage out of humiliation and shouted, What are you looking at? Leaving the argument aside, only the farmer and fourth sister-in-law Dan were left in the cave. The young widow noticed the meaningful look Sia Ague gave her before he left and felt a little nervous and shy. But before she could say anything, the farmer had already stood up and walked silently to the pool. Shocked, fourth sister-in-law Dan hurriedly pulled him and said, This pool looks weird. I'm afraid it's poisonous. It's better not to go in. Let's think of a way to pull Mama Chang's body over. Although the farmer still didn't say anything, he stopped walking. Fourth sister-in-law Dan breathed a sigh of relief. After thinking for a while, she intertwined her hands, and the cotton thread intertwined into a strong rope. With a light wave of her hand, the rope flew out like a living thing and nimbly tied itself to Hua Chang's body. With a light tug, she pulled the body over bit by bit. When she pulled the body close, fourth sister-in-law Dan was already a little tired. The farmer stretched out his hand and held a part of the cotton thread. The young widow instantly felt the cotton thread in her hand sink. She stole a glance. The hand was thick, clumsy, and cracked. It was the hand of a farmer. The farmer was very polite. The hand was far away from her and did not touch her at all. However, she still felt her palm heat up. It was as if, Ayaya, what was this indecent girl thinking? She blushed slightly, but she didn't dare to think too much. The two of them used their strength together. The farmer wrapped a piece of cloth around his other hand and pulled Ah Chang's body out of the pool. Ah Chang's lower body, soaked in the water, was even more horrible and ugly. Fourth sister-in-law Dan didn't dare to look at it again, but the farmer still didn't say a word. He placed the ugly monster in a proper position, then took off his robe and covered Ah Chang's body. Then he squatted beside Ah Zhang, took out his tobacco pouch, and lit it up. Sparks flew out, lighting up his face that was as silent as a withered tree. No one could tell what he was thinking at that moment. But fourth sister-in-law Dan knew. Ah Chang was killed by someone. And in this murder case, the identity of the victim and the murderer combined together was a cruel reality that the farmer absolutely didn't want to accept. She hesitated for a moment, then gathered her skirt and squatted beside the farmer. She said softly, I don't know how to persuade you, but in Ah Chang's heart, I'm afraid pity is more than resentment. The farmer looked at her and didn't say anything. Fourth sister-in-law Dan showed a sad expression and whispered, I can understand, because I used to be a mother. Ah Chang probably also treated your eldest daughter as his own daughter. No matter what her daughter did to her, no matter how angry and resentful she was, there was still an instinctive motherly love that hasn't been erased. She looked at Ah Chang's twisted face and sighed. At the last moment of her life, she still asked herself if she had done something wrong to deserve this kind of torture. She didn't want to believe that her daughter would become such a cruel and evil person. She wanted to understand, wanted to forgive, but she couldn't. Only at the last moment of her life, she was freed. Love overcame hatred. Fourth sister-in-law Dan smiled and said, About my son, I couldn't protect my husband. He died. I thought that I would have to raise Bauer. Life was hard at that time, but as long as he was by my side, as long as he called me mother, even the cotton yarn I spun was meaningful and alive. I thought I couldn't protect my husband, but I had to raise my son. I wanted to earn more money. When he grew up, I sent him to the martial arts club. I looked at him and wondered if he would be successful when he grew up. It would be best if he could eat the food of the Shangwan family. If he really wasn't cut out for that, it would be good if he could be like his father, selling wontons. She sighed, but a smile appeared on her face. She seemed to be recalling those hard but practical days. But he can't become an unfilial ruffian in the marketplace. Every day, he would take things from his parents and use them as gambling capital. I thought, if Bauer became like that, it must be because I didn't teach him well. So I taught him to be sensible and filial. I counted on him. I raised him. I wanted to see him grow up, but I didn't expect. Fourth sister-in-law Dan's eyes were a little red. She wiped her tears and said softly, I didn't expect that I still couldn't protect him. My husband, my son, I couldn't protect them. The farmer seemed to want to comfort her, but he was a dull person. How could he know how to comfort others? But fourth sister-in-law Dan had already wiped away her tears and said softly, So, most of the mothers in the world are the same. I think before Ajong died, the most important thing she thought about was to protect her daughter and then revenge. We are all indebted to her. So we have to fulfill her last wish, right? She looked into the farmer's eyes and smiled. So, after burying her, let's do what we have to do. The farmer was stunned for a moment and finally nodded hard. Okay. He looked around and frowned. This place is not good. It's not good to bury Ah Chong like this. Let's take her out, cremate her, and bring her ashes back to her hometown. Fourth sister-in-law Dan nodded. We'll listen to you. The two looked at each other and felt that they had 1,000 words in their hearts. The farmer smiled for the first time and reached out to help Ah Chong up. I'll carry her all the way. It can be considered as sending her off, crack. Before he could finish, Ah Chong, who was helped to sit up, suddenly lowered her head. Her head was soft as if she had no bones. The two looked at each other for a moment. Fourth sister-in-law Dan obviously didn't know what had happened. Then, the farmer raised his right hand like a madman and tore the flesh on Ah Chang's back with his fingers like an eagle's claw. Fourth sister-in-law Dan saw the farmer suddenly go berserk and was stunned for a moment. She didn't know what had happened. When he tore open Ah Chang's back, the young widow took a look and instantly fell into an ice cave. The blood in her body almost froze. In the blooming flesh and blood, there was a huge flying centipede that had been dead for a long time. Chapter 309. Inside Ah Chang's body, there was a flying centipede. The two of them were speechless for a moment. Cold sweat trickled down their backs. They couldn't speak, their hands couldn't move, and their bodies were trembling. It was obvious that they were extremely scared. After a long while, fourth sister-in-law Dan said with a sobbing tone, the farmer's body couldn't stop trembling. Was there anything more terrifying than this? They once thought that they had obtained salvation. The source egg that had troubled them for a long time had been solved with Ah Chang's self-sacrifice. From then on, there was one less fatal shackle, and they saw hope in the future. But all of this was quickly shattered like the moon in the water. If Ah Chong was built on a lie like a puppet, then what was real? After being stunned for a moment, the farmer clenched his teeth, grabbed a stone from the ground, and smashed it hard on the body of the flying centipede. A large part of the carapace caved in, but the centipede didn't move. It seemed that it was really dead. Fourth sister-in-law Dan bit her finger and said in a trembling voice, Could she be the one with the 5 essences? No. The farmer looked for a moment and said in a low voice, This is just an ordinary flying centipede, not developed from a source egg. She is just an ordinary puppet. Speaking up to this point, he already felt his lips and teeth go cold. His teeth involuntarily bumped up and down, making clattering noises. Every walking corpse that was parasitized by the flying centipede was actually a puppet. They had intelligence and could live like ordinary people, but they would listen to orders, unconditionally obeying a person's orders. Could all of this be? The people who were injected with the source egg had their own consciousness, just like them. But the people parasitized by ordinary flying centipedes had no consciousness and only listened to orders. In other words, this meant that everything that happened in this cave, from Ah Chang's invitation to them to the story that Ah Chong told them, the information about Jidu, Lu Shujin's conspiracy, and even her sacrifice were all fake. the farmer said numbly. "This is a trap," fourth sister-in-law Dan said in a trembling voice. Who? Who is the prey? Everyone who acted because of Ah Chang's actions, the farmer said bitterly. The person who has already gone to Lu Town, and he didn't finish his words. But when the two looked at each other, they could already see the bone-chilling coldness in each other's eyes. Run. The instinct of living creatures to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages caused the two outstanding martial artists to explode in an instant, fleeing towards the cave entrance. But at this moment, the ground suddenly shook. Immediately after, there was another muffled explosion. It was like the beating of a heart, one beat and another. The entire mountain was shaking. Dangerous ripples appeared in the dark green pond water, and bubbles constantly surged outwards. It was as if something dangerous was awakening in this dark green pond. The two of them did not stop, and had already rushed to the entrance of the cave. With a thunderous explosion, the pool water suddenly exploded. Fourth sister-in-law, Dan, hurriedly looked back and saw that the green pond water was like a living creature, forming a flowing and changing shape. At this time, it was dancing wildly, like a fierce beast that had just awakened and was roaring silently towards the sky. Fourth sister-in-law, Dan, hurriedly looked back and saw that the green pond water was like a living creature, forming a flowing and changing shape. At this time, it was dancing wildly, like a fierce beast that had just awakened and was roaring silently towards the sky. Small but flexible water lines rolled out like flexible tentacles. The unformed embryos floating in the pond water, and even the corpses hanging on the stone pillars on the top of the cave, were all rolled up by the tentacles, pulled in the body, and piled up into a bigger and bigger shape. This monster that suddenly appeared was building its own body. "Let's go," the farmer rarely shouted. Regardless of the difference between a man and a woman, he grabbed fourth sister-in-law Dan's wrist and dragged her out. The last scene they saw was the scene where the monster made of liquid rolled up Ah Chang's body. The farmer clenched his teeth, grabbed fourth sister-in-law Dan's wrist, and quickly ran away with her. If all this was a long-planned conspiracy, then there must be a terrifying move waiting for them. The silent man's heart had already been set off by stormy waves. Among the 7 distresses, his character was the most wooden and cowardly, and his attitude was also the most negative. He had always accepted his fate regarding the source egg and the conspiracy of the 8 distresses. Everything in the world was just a matter of borrowing and borrowing. For example, farmers used the power of the land to raise grain. After harvesting, they had to burn the straw to fertilize the land. Sometimes they also had to plant in rotation. Otherwise, if they continued to plant, the land would sooner or later run out of energy. This was the price they had to pay to return to heaven and earth. Heaven and earth were like this. How could they, as ordinary people, not pay a price for obtaining such magical power? Even if they were used as a sacrifice and died miserably, it was only a natural price to pay. There was nothing bad about it. After all, this world was a cruel furnace. People who lived in this world had to suffer. It was not bad to be free as soon as possible. He had always thought this way, looking forward to ending the suffering of life. But today, in this cave, he held a woman's wrist, but what he thought of was not relief or relief. Instead, he thought of her gentle comforting, her soft whispers, the strength after sorrow, the soft warmth from her slender wrist that passed to his palm. She was a living life. For some reason, such a thought suddenly emerged in the farmer's heart. Can't die. Can't let her die. I don't care, but I can't let her die. I must let her live and escape with her. Xia Ague and Kong Zhongwu were nowhere to be found. In the huge belly of the mountain, it seemed that only the 2 of them were left alive. The farmer's heart was in a mess. He suddenly felt his feet go soft, and there were already piles of dead hidden mice. These astonishing number of little bastards had chased after them under the command of Black Snake not long ago. But because of Ah Zhang's self-sacrifice, they had all died. But now it seemed that all of this was a conspiracy, and this was definitely also a conspiracy. He thought of the scene he had seen before, the scene of the liquid monster formed from green water devouring the corpses. On the ground was a sea of dead, hidden mouse corpses. This was the bait to feed that terrifying monster. All of this was a conspiracy. All of this was calculated by that person. Zhang was truly dead. The flying centipede in his body was truly dead, and the hidden mice in the cave were truly dead. They had to die, and they had to die thoroughly. Otherwise, they would not be able to hide from that man's eyes. That person wanted to lure him to Lu Town. She wanted him to destroy Jidu, but she also wanted to kill all of us, awaken our source eggs, and collect our strength. The threat of the source eggs had not been removed. Zhang was just lying. That deadly thing was definitely still active in his body, waiting for the opportunity to break out of its shell. He did not know when it would reach out its sharp claws and bite his spine bit by bit, absorbing all of his strength as a sacrifice to Jidu. That person had already left. His greatest support was not by his side. How could he stop all of this? The farmer madly ran for his life. His mind was like a wheel, thinking with all his might, but the fear and confusion in his heart could not help but surface. He did not know if the other party had arranged some malicious scheme to deal with them. He did not even know if the source eggs would hatch in the next moment. Right now, from the looks of it, Zhang did not remove the threat of the source eggs. The greater possibility was that she had taken the opportunity. At this time, fourth sister-in-law Dan, who was beside him, stumbled and almost fell. At this critical moment, the farmer did not care about anything else. He directly lowered his body and carried her on his back, gathering his chi and leaping forward with large strides. But at this time, he suddenly felt his shoulder soften. Fourth sister-in-law Dan had placed her chin on his shoulder. Then he heard a faint sigh. It made him instantly feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Brother Runtu, I feel so tired. At this time, Xia Age and Kong Zhongwu had already left the mountainside and came outside. First, they wanted to take a breather, and second, they had just heard the farmer say that he was going to cremate Zhang, so they came out to find some firewood. At this time, they suddenly felt a tremor, as if it was rumbling from the mountainside. The two of them did not know that the real terror was about to arrive. Xia Age spat out the grass in his mouth. Fuck, what's going on? Is there some self-destruct mechanism in the mountain? Without saying anything, he ran towards the mountainside door. Kong Zhongwu thought a lot and pulled him. Wait, what if it's an earthquake? Won't you be sending yourself in? Xia Age did not say anything and shook off Kong Zhongwu's hand. Fourth sister-in-law is still inside. I still owe her a life. I should pay it back as soon as possible. Seeing Xia Age running away, Kong Zhongwu stamped his feet, hesitated for a moment, and then chased after him. He did not know why, but he suddenly felt a chill in his bones. Vaguely, he felt that something terrible was about to happen, but Xia Age had already run far away. He could only suppress the bad feeling in his heart and follow him to meet the farmer and fourth sister-in-law Dan. As he ran, he did not forget to look in the direction of Lu Town. Sigh, I hope that the miraculous young hero Zhou can turn the tide and solve this problem perfectly. Before the first wave subsided, another wave came. The things that happened in the past few days were too much for the eye to take in. It made people feel physically and mentally exhausted. Even Kong Zhongwu felt a little sad. Therefore, he thought that if he could survive this time, he should be a good person. At this time, young hero Zhou, who had high hopes, had already returned to Lu Town. This distance was nothing to him. As soon as he returned to the town, he noticed something strange. This is not good. It was already afternoon. It was a busy time. People came and went in the town. It was lively and bustling, as usual. This was obviously not normal. Not to mention the massacre of the Zhou family and the He family. Before Zhang sacrificed herself, she said that all the insects that had escaped from her hands were all dead. The hidden mice in Bamboo Tree Mountain were proof that they had all lost their lives. According to her, there were many people in Lu Town who were parasitized by the flying centipedes. If all the flying centipedes died, the host would lose control, and a lot of people would die out of thin air. At this time, Lu Town should be like Detective Conan, wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves, and corpses everywhere. The people who were still alive should be scared out of their wits. How could they still be in the mood to go shopping? Something abnormal must be a demon. Interesting, interesting. He glanced at the people on the street. In fact, the simplest and most direct way was to tear them apart. If he saw a living flying centipede, it would prove that all this was a trap and a scam. There was something wrong with Ajong, but forget it, I've been vegetarian recently, and he walked towards the herb garden. What's going on? I can just ask the B asterisk TCH. And if all this is a trap, then Chow Patao and the others. There was no place in the world that Sun Lang did not dare to go, and he was also worried about Chow Patao and Sima Ping. Therefore, even if he felt that something was wrong, he still rushed towards the herb garden. Lu Town was not big. He quickly reached the herb garden along the Xianhuan River. Sun Lang swept across the river, kicked open the back door, and walked directly in. In an instant, the sky changed color, or rather, inside the herb garden, it was a different world. The clear sky turned into a strange purple, and the demonic aura was extremely dense. At this time, the herb garden was full of demons. All the plants and animals had become deformed and crazy under the stimulation of the demonic aura, mutating into demons. At this time, they were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws and pouncing in a certain direction one after another. Sun Lang walked forward, and everything along the way was cut into pieces by the chaotic sword aura. Soon, he saw the demonic aura in front of him, and a large number of strange demons surrounded Zhao Yunlong and attacked him like a rotating lantern. He saw the sharp blade of the distant horn spear in the air, like dancing pear blossoms, and like floating snow, constantly tearing apart the demons that dared to invade, firmly protecting Sima Ping under its body. Screen 9 layers of cloud brocade. Shadow falls on Lake Qing Daylight. The sword aura circled 9 times, turning into tiny needles, and fell from the sky with a loud bang, as if thousands of archers were shooting arrows. The formless sword aura was like a waterfall, and even blew up countless holes in the ground, enveloping the demons. Demon blood flowed everywhere, and broken limbs flew everywhere. The demons within a radius of dozens of feet were pierced full of holes, and died without a trace. Zhao Yunlong put away his spear, and said in surprise, "You're here." Sun Lang stood 3 feet away from Zhao Yunlong, and reached out his hand to stop him. Although Chow Patao did not understand what was going on, he still stopped, tilted his head, and asked, "What's wrong?" The ranger shouted, "Golden hair! Woof! Teddy! Ayo, ayo, ayo! Husky! A wolf!" Sun Lang said seriously, "Yes, it's the real deal, not a parasite or a puppet. Student Chow Patao, welcome back to the team." Zhao Yunlong held his head high and saluted proudly. Sima Ping had a subtle expression. "What were you guys doing just now?" Sun Lang looked at Sima Ping, and his eyes flashed with vigilance. "Ah, there's still a survivor here. Yes, we have to test whether or not it's a parasite. Come, student Sima Ping, please give a brief summary of your chest size and development prospects, the kind that can be summarized in 1 sentence." "Go die." "Yes, this is also true." Chapter 310. Even though the 100 Garden was filled with demonic wind, strange and terrifying, and she had just experienced the terrifying scene of being surrounded and attacked by thousands of demons, Sima Ping still flew into a rage after hearing Sun Lang's words. She wanted nothing more than to eat this bastard's flesh raw. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws as she pounced towards Sun Lang. It seemed that she was extremely angry from embarrassment. The fear and panic from before had long been thrown out of the window. Sun Lang dodged Sima Ping's attack and said with a smile, "Yo, yo, yo, you already have this kind of awareness? Small breasts are common in war. Heroine, please reincarnate," or something like that. "I'll send you to reincarnate right now, you bastard." The ranger dodged while looking at Zhao Yunlong with a smile. "Where is Aunt Lu?" Zhao Yunlong gave a thumbs up and revealed an "I'm great" expression. After you left, the other Lu Shujin suddenly came out and said that she wanted to talk to me. In the end, I went up and slapped her, knocking her out. Sun Lang nodded repeatedly. "Not bad, not bad." "Then where is she now?" Chow, Patao snorted. After I knocked her out, I planned to wait for you to come back and interrogate her. Unexpectedly, not long ago, a blood-red light fell from the sky and hit her directly. In an instant, that Lu Shujin woke up, and her every movement was filled with tyrannical demonic power. Then, the 100-herb garden became like this, and a large group of demons and ghosts took the opportunity to attack. I had to protect Sima Ping, so I couldn't keep her and let her escape. Sun Lang thought for a moment and knew that the so-called red light should be the 8 bitter karma in Xianglin's sister-in-law's body. At that time, it returned to the origin, awakening the B*TCH personality and increasing her power. But where did she go? The ranger's expression changed slightly as he pointed in a direction and said to Zhao Yunlong, "Go straight about 37 miles. There is a bamboo mountain. Xia Ague and the others are there. Go there as fast as you can and beat the B*TCH personality if you see her. Save as many as you can. If the flying centipede in their bodies has awakened, kill them directly. Don't give the flying centipede the chance to swallow their spines and absorb their life essence." Understood. Zhao Yunlong immediately nodded. What about you? What about Sima Ping? Sima Ping will stay by my side. No one can hurt her. As for me, Sun Lang looked around the 100-herb garden and sneered. I'll tear this place open and see what's buried below. You don't need to tear open it. At this moment, a sweet and light voice suddenly sounded from the left. Zhao Yunlong was surprised that she didn't notice someone approaching. Sun Lang's body didn't move, but his eyelids were slightly opened. The sharp sword chi whistled through the air and exploded loudly, forcing a graceful figure to appear. Lu Shujin suddenly appeared. The place where she was just standing was plowed by the sword chi. She stuck out her tongue and patted her chest with a face full of fear. So powerful, Sun Lang, you almost killed me. Zhao Yunlong saw that the originally cold and unromantic Lu Shujin had become such a B*TCH. Not only was she pretending to be young, but she was also acting cute. She couldn't help but feel that it was very offensive. She held her spear and snorted coldly. An old woman pretending to be a virgin. What a joke. However, she quickly realized where the problem was and couldn't help but let out a sound of surprise. Because the state of Lu Shujin in front of her was very strange. She wanted to lock onto the other's aura, but found that the other's demonic energy flow seemed to faintly merge with the earth under her feet. No, it's the 100-herb garden. The frequency of her aura, the fluctuations of her power, they were all faintly compatible with the 100-herb garden. No wonder she could avoid the perception of her own divine sense and quietly approach. If Zhao Yunlong could discover it, Sun Lang naturally could too. He opened his eyes and sized up Lu Shujin. He said indifferently, "It seems that Jidu is located below the 100-herb garden. You returned to your hometown a few years ago. I'm afraid it wasn't to visit your fellow villagers, but to carry someone's secret order. You made a wish for your uncles and brothers to be officials and secretly mobilized a large amount of manpower and material resources to prepare for the birth of Jidu. I'm afraid that the bottom of the 100-herb garden has already been hollowed out by you." Lu Shujin tilted her head with a smile. "Exactly. Sun Lang, it's already very amazing that you can understand it now." The ranger calmly looked at the ground under his feet. "It's just that I'm very curious. When I first set foot in the 100-herb garden, I once sensed and scanned the ground, but I found nothing. But now it seems that it's not that there's nothing below. It's that this so-called Ji-Du has blocked my divine sense. This thing buried in the ground can actually escape my perception. It's really strange." He smiled. "So this Ji-Du of yours, what exactly is it?" Lu Shujin still had a bright and warm smile on her face as she chuckled and said, "It's something that Sun Lang will definitely like very much." Even with the B*TCH personality's mental state and level of derangement, she could not help but cover her forehead and moan. "Although I like Sun Lang very much, I also want to hit you. So you don't have it?" Sun Lang's expression changed. "You guys are involved in false advertising. Do you believe that I will complain to the Consumers Association about you?" The B*TCH sighed. I can't out-talk you. I admit defeat, okay. But her face showed an expectant and relieved smile as she said softly, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Sunlang, I've been waiting for you for a long time. I've also been waiting for this day for a long time. There was a trace of sadness in her bright smile, but there was also an indescribable joy. She was like a young girl who had fallen in love and finally met the lover she had been thinking about day and night. Her nervous and excited appearance made people feel pity for her at first glance. But Sun Lang was still unmoved. He said lightly, I thought you went to Bamboo Mountain to kill people after you woke up. The B*TCH personality waved her hand. How could that be? How could killing people be more important than seeing you? Sun Lang said calmly, You mean you've already arranged the means to deal with them? Lu Shujin blinked cutely. I don't understand what you're talking about. The paladin smiled. You don't seem to be surprised or panicked that I've been to Bamboo Mountain. Is there something special about it? The two seemed to be chatting, but they had been arguing for several rounds. The B*TCH personality couldn't hide it anymore. She stomped her feet angrily. Really? You're always tricking people. Sun Lang frowned and thought for a moment. Is there a problem with Ajong? The B*TCH personality still smiled brightly. Guess? The paladin said lightly. There's no need to guess. Whether there's a problem with Ajong or not, your purpose is to leave me here. Then I'll do the opposite. I'll just turn around and leave. Can you stop me? Of course I can't stop you. The B*TCH personality blinked and smiled. But your purpose is to save Lu Shujin. Then I'll do the opposite. I'll use my divine mind to kill her. Can you stop me? Sun Lang's expression was cold. He lowered his eyelids and said indifferently, I've been in the military for 6 years. I've been appointed as the pillar of the nation and received the martial scepter. I've been in charge of strategizing and winning. I've used 6 armies to fight against the Sky Demon. How many soldiers of the Empire have died under my martial seal? If you think that Lu Shujin alone can stop me, then you're wrong. Of course not. I'm the person who knows you the best in the world, Sun Lang. You're not the kind of person who'll be threatened. Lu Shujin smiled lightly and said softly, So because of this, I also know that if there's a chance to save her, you won't give up, right? That's right. Sun Lang said indifferently, So, I'm here today to see what kind of medicine you're selling in your gourd. That's great. I'm so envious. Lu Shujin stopped smiling and took a step back. She said seriously, Then, Sun Lang, I've been waiting for you for a long time. I have something to say to you. I have something to show you. I have a proposal that I want you to consider. Now, the life and death of the Lu Shujin you're familiar with is in my hands. Although killing me is as easy as lifting a finger, your purpose is to save Lu Shujin. Then we can make an agreement on the basis of this matter. She looked at Sun Lang and said calmly, You agree to my request, and I'll achieve your goal. I can return her to you. Sun Lang snorted. What request? Lu Shujin first looked at Zhao Yunlong, who was guarding beside Sun Lang. Only you can see it. Moreover, something bad will happen in a while. My little disciple might not be able to handle it. It's better to let General Yunlong take my little disciple out first. Sima Ping, who was hiding behind Zhao Yunlong, poked her head out and said loudly, You're not my teacher. The B*TCH chuckled, stretched out her hand, and held the heavy fruit in front of her chest. She smiled and said, Good Ping Air, call me Mister, and I'll teach you the secret to make this big. Sima Ping was stunned at first. Then she stammered, Who needs you to teach me? You must be lying, right? I won't be fooled. Sun Lang pondered for a moment. That's good too. He looked at Zhao Yunlong and said a few words to her through secret sound transmission. Chow Patao was stunned for a moment. Then she carried Sima Ping out without saying anything. Lu Shujin smiled and said, What did Sun Lang say to her? It's none of your business. Seeing that Zhao Yunlong had disappeared outside the tall courtyard walls of the herb garden, Sun Lang said indifferently, What do you want to show me? You'll definitely like it. It's the most suitable for you, the most worthy for you. Lu Shujin's face was filled with excitement and expectation, and she said softly, It longs for your touch. It's been waiting for you for a long time. It's been waiting for a master who can truly control it for a long time. Your sword was once made in the name of holiness, but it was silent in the ugly darkness. This is the essence of a world, and also the most shameful and ugly betrayal in this world. We're all the same. We'll take revenge. We're all people whose past and future were taken away. Since that's the case, then we'll return all the suffering in the world to them, in the name of this sword, in the name of the eighth radiant. Sun Lang's expression changed. Lu Shujin had already raised her hands high, and a huge amount of demonic aura was released from her body, resonating with the herb garden more and more fiercely. In the nothingness, the energy that made people tremble violently reverberated. In an instant, the sky changed color, the universe reversed, and the herb garden collapsed. Huge chunks of earth, gravel, and wreckage soared into the sky, spinning like stars, covering the sun, swallowing the light, and covering the peerless edge that soared into the sky. This is Demon Sword Ji-Du. Chapter 3:11. In an instant, heaven and earth were turned upside down, and the sun and moon lost their brilliance. Large pieces of cracked earth, boulders, pillars, and even the wreckage of houses soared into the sky, bound by an invisible force in the sky. The whole herb garden collapsed inch by inch, and hundreds of buildings collapsed. The ground caved in, and rocks flew up. The loud roars were incessant, and the demonic aura spread out, flowing freely. The purple mist in front of him was misty, as if he was no longer in the human world. Sun Lang's feet fell into the ground, and he slid down into the huge pit in the ground. Underneath the herb garden, there should be an extremely large underground palace. The large-scale construction, the expenditure of money and food, all the arrangements were made for Ji-Du. Now that Ji-Du had appeared, this underground palace had also lost its meaning and value to continue existing. The roaring and unbridled sword aura trembled, causing a terrifying earthquake, setting off boundless waves of chi, constantly collapsing everything, constantly shaking everything, and venting out the sharpness of the newly born sword aura. The huge boulders in the sky rotated, covering the sky and the sun. The underground purple aura spread out, and the demonic aura overflowed. The herb garden formed a huge boundary, isolating it from the outside world and covering everything that happened here. In this huge pit, Sun Lang looked at the magnificent altar in front of him. Henceforth, the secret buried in the depths of the herb garden was finally exposed under the sun. The 7-level sacrificial altar was inscribed with complicated and profound secret markings, and it was carved with numerous savage and terrifying greater demons. Ink-black demon blood repeatedly soaked every single inch of the sacrificial altar, and its ferocious and violent aura broke through the final shackles and gave rise to waves of air that were like a sea of blood, and it blazed with clamorous demon energy. At the highest level of the sacrificial altar, a sword that was completely violet in color, had a slender body, and was filled with a demonic aura, was floating in midair, and it emitted numerous sword howls of excitement. Lu Shujin lightly landed on the altar next to the sword. Her pretty face was flushed with excitement, and she happily said to Sun Lang, "Did you hear it? It sensed you. It sensed your power. It sensed the blazing anger in your body. This is Ji-Du. This is the opposite of the moon and moon. The moon-devouring demon sword Ji-Du. This was a peerless weapon that could rival the 7 luminaries' sacred sword. You will become its master." Sun Lang didn't say anything. He first glanced at the 8-sided altar. There were 8 miniature altars in each of the 8 corners, and 3 of them were already glowing with blood-colored light. After which, he inclined his head and stared at the demon sword hovering above the altar. That violent wind and terrifying demonic chi gushed downwards, yet when it came into contact with him, it automatically parted, weakly dissipating to the sides. He faintly said, Interesting, its sword soul is not yet complete. It should be because the 8 distresses are not yet in place. It hasn't been completely sharpened yet, but it already has such power. It is already a rare, peerless divine weapon in this world. After it is sharpened, as long as it is warmed and tempered, it can indeed grow into a top divine weapon that is not inferior to the 7 luminaries' sacred sword. Most importantly, this sword was forged with a secret technique of the demon race and does not belong to the Imperial Army. In the future, it will have a great advantage against the 7 luminaries' sacred sword. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a mocking smile. Interesting, a demon sword that can rival the highest achievement of the Imperial Army of this dynasty was actually born in this broken town. How surprising. Lu Shujin saw that Sun Lang's attitude was ambiguous, and for a moment, she couldn't figure out what he was thinking. However, stalling for time was beneficial to her, so she was naturally happy to do so. The B*TSH flew down, and demon power lingered around her body. Her breath was faintly connected with Ji-Du, and she could actually mobilize the monstrous demon power of Ji-Du for her own use. Between her movements, the demon power was diffused. Obviously, she could not be underestimated. She took a few steps forward and said with a smile, "Sun Lang, you didn't think that Ji-Du is a demon sword?" "Indeed, I didn't think of it," Sun Lang said faintly. "I thought that Ji-Du was a sleeping ancient demon, or a sealed sacred item of the demon race. I also thought that it was a biological weapon, but I never thought that Ji-Du was actually a peerless demon sword that was comparable to the 7 luminaries' sacred sword. This is really the vicissitudes of life and the changes in the human world. In the blink of an eye, the 7 luminaries' sacred sword, a first-rate divine weapon, has actually become a cabbage that can be casually bumped into in a small town along the coast of the Empire. This really makes me, the former owner of the 7 luminaries' sacred sword, have a complicated feeling. And it feels like," he thought for a moment and nodded, "it feels like I believed in the evil of the fake pig trap before. And after using it for a long time, I saw a bigger world." Obviously, the B*TSH couldn't understand this kind of joke, but it didn't prevent her from understanding the meaning of the words. She pursed her lips and smiled. "Sun Lang, you think too much. You definitely don't know, for this demon sword, exactly I know." Sun Lang said faintly, "For this sacred sword, your Lu family declined, and almost all of them died. The nanny who took care of you since you were young was transformed into an ugly monster by you. Your hometown encountered a parasitic beast crisis. I don't know how many people were possessed by flying centipedes and lost their lives without knowing what happened. The fate of 8 people was changed forever, and they are about to become sacrifices and blood food for this sword." Lu Shujin's expression didn't change, and she smiled gently. "Sun Lang, are you blaming me?" The ranger said calmly, "I don't have the habit of standing on the moral high ground to judge others. The difference between good and evil is really blurred in my eyes. I don't care how many people you have killed, not as many as I have killed." The B*TSH showed a happy and surprised smile, clapped her hands, and said, "I knew it. Sun Lang is definitely not such a boring person." So, she took 2 steps forward, but was forced by Sun Lang's sharp eyes. "I haven't finished yet. I don't care how many people you have killed, whether you're a mad scientist or a homicidal maniac. It has nothing to do with me. I also don't care what kind of plan you have to destroy the world, what kind of tragic past you have, and I don't care how you want to take revenge on society. But if you provoke me, then it's a different story." Lu Shujin pursed her lips and muttered, "How did I provoke you?" Sun Lang pointed at her. "Annie Lu, you've turned her family into this state, occupied her body, and messed around. You even created such big news. In the future, when Lu Zhen is exposed, she will also have to take responsibility. This is too much. You have made my friend's life like this, and I feel very embarrassed, so I want to teach you a lesson." Lu Shujin's smile didn't change, and she said softly, "I will apologize, and as I said, if you accept Ji-Du, I will return your Aunt Lu to you. How about it?" Sun Lang's expression was indifferent as he said, "I want Annie Lu who can touch breasts." The B*TCH froze for a moment, and then smiled charmingly. How can that unromantic woman let you touch her? If you want to touch her, she can let you touch her anytime and anywhere. The ranger said calmly, You are so cute. It is a pity to be a woman. Why don't you go into the sword? In this way, I can hold your weakness every day. Isn't it beautiful? I don't want to. Lu Shujin said with a smile, I want to stay with Sun Lang. Whisper sweet nothings to you while watching the world burn. Unfortunately, killing and arson is a great joy in life. I don't want to do this with a woman I don't like. Sun Lang looked at Lu Shujin and said calmly, This is the last ultimatum. Return the body to Lu Shujin and then get out of her body. If you behave well, it is not impossible to find a new body for you. I want this one. Hearing this, Lu Shujin restrained a smile on her face, looked at Sun Lang, and said word by word, This was originally mine. The ranger said lightly, Not anymore. If you continue to be stubborn, your life will not be yours. Lu Shujin was stunned for a moment, and then she let out a string of bell-like laughter. She laughed until she was out of breath, clutching her chest, and looked at Sun Lang. Do you really think that when I invited you down here, I was not prepared at all, and that I would have no way to deal with you? How long have I prepared for this day? How could I not consider the possibility that you are not willing to cooperate? No, you must have something to rely on. I have already expected it. I just feel that you seem to have forgotten to consider one thing. He looked at the sword on the altar, then looked at Lu Shujin in front of him, and the corner of his mouth revealed a sarcastic smile, and his eyes flashed with a cold light. 8 years ago, a group of people forced a sword on me, just like now. Do you know where those people are now? Today, I will teach you, even if you want to sell a sword, you have to follow the basic rules. Chapter 3:12. The wind was wrapped in demon power, almost turning into a viscous liquid. The strong chi came wave after wave, and the whole sinkhole reverberated with a fierce sword cry. The flying stones in the sky were getting faster and faster, and the flying sand and stones blocked the sunlight. Everything was collapsing. Under the terrifying demon power of Ji-Du, it was as if everything was trembling. Lu Shurin and Ji-Du shared the same demonic energy, and at this moment, a terrifying aura gushed out. Her demonic chi filled the air, dense and tyrannical. Her eyes burned with blazing purple flames, and wisps of purple smoke seeped out from the corners of her eyes. Every move she made was filled with a tyrannical strength that could topple mountains and overturn seas. She pushed her right hand forward, and the demonic energy wrapped around Ji-Du's sword light, and with an irresistible momentum, the demonic energy crashed towards Sun Lang wave after wave. Do you see it? This is the power of Ji-Du. It is not even in its most perfect state. Lu Shujin shouted, Why do you refuse? Hold it. Control it. You are the only person in the world who is qualified to use it. This sword is gay purple, and it looks gay. I don't want it. Sun Lang's windbreaker fluttered, and his posture was relaxed. You can buy some dye and change the color. Maybe I will consider it again. He raised his right hand and pointed his sword finger in the air. Using his finger as a sword, the tyrannical chi of the sword broke out. The two huge forces collided in the void, and the invisible force suddenly turned into a terrible shock wave, splashing around. Sun Lang was shocked by Ji-Du's power and took 2 steps back. He frowned slightly. Lu Shujin's proud laughter came. Do you know how many demons died in order to cast this sword? How many rare materials were used? Ji-Du was buried deep in the ground, and how much power was absorbed? As the demon race's holy sword, it has the innate ability to erode and restrain martial artists. If you don't use the power of the holy sword, how can you make up for this disadvantage? As she spoke, she seemed to be proud of her own careful arrangement and plan, and laughed proudly. But if you fully activate the power of the holy sword, the Imperial Astronomer is not a fool. How can they not know? When the news of your survival spreads, the world will be in chaos. Do you think those people will let you go? If they came to kill you, would you give up without a fight? At that time, whether you accept Ji Du or not, it doesn't seem to matter. Sun Lang smiled. You've even calculated this step. You've really put in a lot of effort. Lu Shujin clapped her hands and said with a laugh, the way of war depends on the right time, the right place, and the right people. Which one do you have? Marshal, you're well versed in the art of war. You wouldn't fight a battle that you're sure to lose, would you? I've won against even the worst odds, Sun Lang said calmly. It's just a bunch of scrap metal. It's not like I haven't fought against it before. Lu Shujin sneered and was about to say something when suddenly, both of them felt something and involuntarily looked up at the sky. Back in the past, in the belly of the bamboo mountain. Brother Runtai, I feel so tired. The farmer felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Only then did he realize that fourth sister-in-law Dan, who was lying on top of him, was acting strangely. Her soft and delicate body was trembling slightly, and even her breathing had become rapid. Sometimes it was light, sometimes it was heavy, and sometimes it was undetectable. He suddenly realized that the most terrifying situation had happened. Ah Chang was actually a puppet controlled by the flying centipede. All of this was a lie and a trap. As for sacrificing himself to remove the threat of the flying centipede, it was even more of a joke. Ji Du's awakening required the 8 distresses as a sacrifice. The sleeping centipede egg would hatch and wake up. It would devour the host's flesh and blood, absorb the life essence, and offer everything as a sacrifice for Ji Du's awakening. When would it hatch? When would it wake up? And when would it devour? Now, he stopped and was about to turn around, but fourth sister-in-law Dan was one step ahead of him. She wrapped her arms around his neck and said weakly in his ear, "Don't. Just for a while. Let me hug you for a while. I can still hold on for a while." Although her voice was soft, it was like a sharp sword that directly pierced into the farmer's chest. In an instant, he felt a heart-wrenching pain. He didn't know why, but he felt himself trembling. Maybe it was anger, maybe it was fear, maybe it was sadness. Flying centipede, exchange, power. He thought he could be calm about all of this. But now, he only felt great pain and resentment. The egg of the person on his back was gradually recovering in her body. When the larva completely woke up, it would enjoy the only and most delicious meal in its life. Correspondingly, a fresh life would be lost. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say. He couldn't stop all of this. He was so powerless, so incompetent. He couldn't even slow down the pain of the person on his back. "Don't cry." A slender and warm palm covered his face. Fourth sister-in-law Dan murmured, "If you act like this, I'm afraid I'll cry too. I just called you Brother Runtu. You didn't get shocked, right? I wanted to call you that for a long time, but I have a husband. I have a child." Her body was sometimes cold and sometimes hot. Her internal strength was restless, making her ears tingle and her heart beat faster. She felt dizzy. Death was approaching her step by step. Her life was like a flickering candle. She smiled bitterly and said, "It's so fast. I just didn't expect that the first one would be me. Run a brother. Am I going to die? I used to look forward to death, but now I can't bear to." Fourth sister-in-law Dan took a few breaths. She seemed to be immersed in the memories of the past. They said that a good woman should be a good wife. At that time, my husband died. I thought that I couldn't be a good wife, but I had to teach my child well. I couldn't protect my husband, so I had to raise my child. At that time, we depended on each other. I spun until late every day. I was very tired, but I didn't feel bitter because Bauer was by my side. He was very sensible and very cute. He said that when he grew up, he would earn a lot of money and give it to me. I wanted to raise my child, so I had to spin desperately. At that time, every yarn was very interesting. Every thread seemed to be alive. But Bauer died. I couldn't protect my child. Bauer died. My heart was empty. I felt that the house was empty. The cotton that I spun was also empty. I couldn't protect my husband. I couldn't protect my son. I didn't know what was the use of me living in this world. Later, I occasionally heard that Bauer was killed. There was a person who wanted to take over me. He bribed a quack doctor to delay the illness and kill my child. He took advantage of the situation. Then, Then I killed him. Someone wanted to make a deal with me. He wanted to give me the power to avenge him. I had nothing left, so I agreed. I killed him. I used a cotton thread to cut him to death bit by bit. I didn't let anyone in his family go. But no matter how many people I killed, Bauer couldn't come back. No matter how much blood was stained, the cotton thread was always empty. Then I met you. When did I start to care about you? I don't know. Her voice was bitter and a little shy. She said softly, all day long, you always had a bitter face. You didn't like to talk. You didn't like to cause trouble. You resigned yourself to adversity and were honest. They didn't like you very much, but you were really good. Although you didn't like to talk, you were very reliable. You were very kind and took care of me. You knew that I was timid, so you did some things for me. Her low laughter was full of regret and shyness. These words, I usually wouldn't say it out loud. But if I don't say it now, I'm afraid it's too late. I used to have many dreams. I dreamed of you and me. I was such a useless woman. I even got married once. My husband and child died. What am I talking about? Sister-in-law Dan smiled bitterly, and her tone became urgent. I always thought that I had no tomorrow, that I had lost all hope in my life, that I was like a walking corpse. I kept losing, but I still wanted to have it. But every time I had hope, in the end, it was still a dream. Just like just now, I thought that things had turned around. Maybe one day, I could go with you to a place where no one knows us. You plow the field, and I'll spin the yarn. The farmer trembled. Fourth sister-in-law. Don't call me fourth sister-in-law. At least before I die. I could be a little bit unconventional. Fourth sister-in-law Dan smiled weakly. I have a name. She whispered her name in the farmer's ear. Like an unmarried little girl. She revealed her name to her lover with a shy smile. Then she pressed her finger on the farmer's lips. Don't say it out loud. Just remember it in your heart. Don't say it out loud. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to bear it. The woman hugged the farmer tightly, as if she wanted to remember this feeling forever. She said in a low voice, Xianglin saw. At first, I thought that we were in the same boat. We had both lost our husbands and our sons. We were both the most miserable women in the world. But when I saw her die, I suddenly felt that I was actually much luckier than her. At least I can. At this moment, a faint roar came from the depths of the tunnel behind them. The sound and vibration were getting closer and closer. Fourth sister-in-law Dan's face changed. She pressed the farmer's Dasui acupoint with one hand and pressed the farmer's back with the other. This was the most fatal point of a martial artist. The farmer instinctively wanted to resist, but when his vital point fell into the hands of the woman, his internal strength collapsed. His hands and feet became weak. Fourth sister-in-law Dan jumped down from his broad back and then put her head on the farmer's back. The farmer seemed to realize something and said, Fourth sister-in-law, what do you want to do? The woman didn't say anything. After the last tenderness, her hands exerted an unimaginable strength. Her petite body burst out with an unimaginable strength. She lifted the farmer up and then threw him in the direction of escape. With a bang, the farmer rolled on the ground and involuntarily turned over. His Dasui acupoint was pressed by fourth sister-in-law Dan. His internal strength penetrated. For a long time, he couldn't exert any strength. He could only struggle with all his strength. Looking at fourth sister-in-law Dan in the distance, he shouted, no. The woman stood in the same place. Her snow-white morning dress gently fluttered. Her beautiful figure was imprinted in the farmer's eyes. After a few years, she once again found a feeling of spinning cotton yarn in the small but warm house. At that time, Bauer sat beside her and stared at her with a pair of small black eyes. He said, Mom, Dad sells wontons. When I grow up, I will also sell wontons. I will sell them for a lot of money. I will give them to you. Those days were tiring, but she didn't feel bitter, because there was still hope, because there was still tomorrow. She couldn't protect her husband, but after all, she had a son. She wanted to raise her son and count on him. But she still lost Bauer. She once lost her tomorrow. She once lost her hope. Until a ray of light appeared in her life again. She stared at the farmer and smiled for the last time. Thank you for giving me hope. Then she turned around. The snow-white cotton threads flew out from her sleeves. one after another, one after another. She finally found the feeling of the past. Bauer was by her side. In order to raise this child, she spun cotton yarn through the night. Every thread was immersed in a beautiful tomorrow. Every thread was full of hope. Her heart suddenly became empty. Her slender fingers danced like butterflies among flowers. The cotton thread danced like a living creature. It was as if every inch of it was meaningful and alive. Every thread was filled with all the burning life and passion. It stuck to the stone wall, drilled into the stone crevices, pulled the protruding stone wall, and wrapped around the rugged, strange stones. She finally looked at the farmer and smiled gently. In this life, I have to protect a man, right? Then, he resolutely rushed towards the roaring monster. The 8 hardships of life were love and parting. There was no fierce shout, no invincible momentum. There was only a weak woman's first resistance in the face of impermanent fate. Her white hands pulled the thin cotton thread. She once thought that although the cotton thread was thin, it could always support her and her son's tomorrow. The cotton thread cut deeply into her flesh. It even cut and bled, but she did not seem to feel it. Today, the pain had truly become a thing of the past. Hope had truly become strength. Tomorrow still existed in front of her that she could not touch, but it shone with a light that satisfied her. It allowed her to protect it with all her strength without any regrets, cut off, separate, collapse, and advance. The threads that melted into everything and restrained everything released a sharp power that could cut through gold and jade in the last moments of her life. The cotton threads tightened, cut, and spread out again. The white figure moved forward with an indomitable will. Large pieces of broken stone walls, the stone pillars above the tunnel, and the jagged rocks on both sides of the tunnel were continuously cut down. They fell to the ground with loud bangs and blocked the path behind her, completely isolating the man she wanted to protect from the danger in front of him. As for the thin figure, she moved forward with an indomitable will toward the roaring and charging monster with a satisfied smile on her face. She spun the last string of life in her life. The entire tunnel let out a loud roar. It was constantly torn and cut by the all-pervasive cotton thread. Large pieces of stones kept falling. There were more and more of them, and they became denser and denser. Finally, with an earth-shattering bang accompanied by the painful and angry roar of a beast, the long tunnel suddenly collapsed. Everything was buried under the collapsed boulders. Chapter 3:13. The farmer was dragged out of the underground palace by Ague, which was still shaking. Before that, he was frantically and futilely digging at the pile of gravel that had almost collapsed the entire tunnel. He turned a deaf ear to the shouts of Ague and Kong Zhongwu. Ague helplessly stretched out his hand to pull him, but the farmer's strength was astonishing. He and Kong Zhongwu worked together to drag him out of the cave. They faintly felt that there was something terrifying on the other side of the ruins that made them extremely uneasy. Although they couldn't find where fourth sister-in-law Dan was, the surroundings were still shaking, and gravel kept falling from above. It was obviously not a place to stay for long. The two of them risked their lives to drag the struggling farmer out of the underground palace and threw him on the ground. The farmer's eyes were red as he roared and tried to run back. Ague rushed up and kicked him in the chest. He then sat on him and slapped him 4 to 5 times in a row. After the farmer fainted from the slaps, he grabbed the farmer's collar and fiercely said, "Master is asking you a question. Where's fourth sister-in-law?" At this time, the farmer's crazy spirit had been exhausted. He stared at the entrance of the cave in a daze. At this time, a blazing red cloud condensed into a blood-red river that soared into the sky from the mountain like a meteor, rushing in the direction of Lutown. Ague and Kong Zhongwu sucked in a breath of cold air, almost stunned on the spot. They couldn't believe what they saw. They were not unfamiliar with this blood-red light. Not long ago, the flying centipede that had sucked Xianglin's sister-in-law dry, broke out from her body and wanted to bite everyone to death, was killed by them together. Its body quickly withered, and only a blazing red light quickly flew away. Later, they heard from Ah Chong that it was the life essence of Xiangling's sister-in-law, Dan's 8 distresses sacrifice. After the flying centipede died, it was automatically attracted by the blazing 5 accumulations and traced back to the origin, and went to Lu Town. But Xiangling's sister-in-law, Jiu Jin's old lady, and Hua Xiaoshuan were all dead. This blood-red rainbow, who was it? Kong Zhongwu and Xia Agui's faces changed dramatically. In addition to being shocked by the death of 4th sister-in-law Dan, this strange phenomenon was like a bolt from the blue for them. Did not Chong resolve the thread of the source egg? What was going on? Xia Agui's face instantly turned pale, and the veins on his hands bulged. He grabbed the farmer's collar even harder than before and shouted, "What happened? Why did the source egg awaken? Why did the source egg awaken?" He no longer cared about 4th sister-in-law Dan's death. The farmer, on the other hand, stared blankly at the blood-red light flying towards Lu Town. His lips trembled and large drops of tears fell from his eyes. He seemed to see the weak little woman again. She was shy, introverted, and did not like to talk. However, at the moment when her life was hanging by a thread, she arranged everything properly. She was always thinking for him. She knew that the flying centipede was about to break out of her body. So she pulled the large boulders in the tunnel and buried her body under a large number of rocks. This way, not only could she perish together with the attacking liquid monster, she could also firmly suppress the mature flying centipede, making it unable to chase after the farmer. It would be trapped and forced to commit suicide, returning the life energy it absorbed to the 5 skandhas. This enormous power was bound to have a second impact on Lu Shujin, forcing her to devour this energy and not continue to awaken the source eggs in the other people's bodies. This way, she could buy more time for the farmer to live. Perhaps during this time, the hope of reversing everything would appear. This little woman, even at the last moment, did not frankly express her feelings, but she had put all her feelings into a silent and great sacrifice. Even if she died, her last whispers, her last feelings and confession, the silent promise and love were forever engraved in the hearts of the two people. Even if the mulberry field became the sea, and the sea became the mulberry field again, everything would not be erased. The farmer closed his eyes and tightly clenched his teeth. Bean-sized drops of tears continuously fell from the corners of his eyes. A silent but blazing flame burned fiercely in his heart. He had long passed the naive and hot-blooded time of his youth. The cruel reality had long destroyed him to the point that he was wooden and silent. He would not be agitated, had no courage, and could only resign himself to adversity. But at this moment, he seemed to feel a long-lost fire, a huge sadness, making him tremble, tormenting him, questioning him, and angrily rebuking him. Let him wake up, let him open his eyes, let him straighten his back again, let him fight, let him determine who was right and who was wrong. But, the person who killed 4th sister-in-law, why was it her? Once again, he had to make a choice between two difficult choices. Once again, he had to choose whether or not to let her down. Who told him to be born in this world, to suffer, to make difficult choices? He could only continuously question himself, and also question that person, why? At this time, Xia Agui had already weakly released his collar, retreated 2 steps, and sat on the ground. He did not need an answer. He was not stupid. He had already read everything he wanted to know from what had just happened and the farmer's expression. How 4th sister-in-law died was not important. Whether Ajong was lying or not was not important. What was important was that the crisis of the source egg that troubled them had not been resolved. The gangrene that could take their lives at any time was still active in their bodies. It could break out of the source egg at any time, open its fangs and kill them bit by bit, eat them bit by bit, and sacrifice them bit by bit. He smiled bitterly. So, we were all happy for nothing? So, this is actually a scam? A joke? The farmer weakly nodded, tears flowing again. He said in a daze, "It's fake, it's all a scam." Whether it's the source egg or Zhang, everything is a scam. Even if they were mentally prepared, but when they heard such a reply, it still made Kong and Xie tremble. They looked at each other, fear and despair shrouding their hearts. If everything was fake, if it was a trap arranged long ago, then it meant that everything here was within the calculations of that terrifying opponent, including their life and death, including Sun Lang's movements. In other words, Kong Zhongwu hopelessly closed his eyes, sighing, "Even after all the schemes, we still cannot escape this calamity." The farmer was still immersed in great sorrow and despair, tears flowing down his face, not saying a word. Xia Ague sat on the ground, his face pale. The expression on his face rapidly changed, as if he had also sunk into great fear. This man, who had shown extraordinary courage and uncompromising fighting spirit from the beginning, seemed to have lost his spirit and was scared out of his wits, unable to say a word. Instead, Kong Zhongwu suddenly shook his head. "No, the source egg in our bodies has not hatched yet. Do you remember what Zhang said? Sister-in-law Xianglin's bloodlight will directly return to the origin and will attack the host of the five essences, forcing her to spend time accommodating and harmonizing this power. The rainbow just now was fourth sister-in-law's life essence. Now that it has gone to Lu Zhan, it will definitely buy us precious time." He paced back and forth, a light returning to his eyes. "We have not lost this battle. The only person we can rely on is currently going to Lu Zhan to find Lu Shujin to have showdown. He may have also fallen into this trap, but don't forget, the reason he became a variable in this scheme is because he possesses great power. Even at this moment, victory and defeat is not clear. He still has the hope of breaking through with force and resolving the situation." Kong Zhongwu turned around, first looking at Xie Age. "Old Xie, what's wrong? This isn't like you." Xie Agui's face was pale as he sat on the ground, still not saying a word. Kong Zhongwu frowned slightly. Could it be that the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment? He had been full of hope and thought that he was saved, but the situation suddenly changed and despair returned. Was that why he couldn't think straight for a moment? Dumbo Kong shook his head inwardly. Compared to Xie Ague, the farmer's situation was a little worse. He was clenching his teeth and crying, and must be extremely sad. He had to think of something. However, the moment he walked toward the farmer, he suddenly heard a fierce gust of wind behind him. Kong Zhongwu's alarm bells went off, but he was still one step too late. In that instant, several vital acupoints on his back had been swept like a pipa, and many of his body's acupoints were sealed. Then, without a sound, he fell to the ground, hearing that something was wrong. The farmer felt a pain in his chest just as he opened his eyes. His heart was filled with boundless grief, and he had long lost his usual vigilance. Moreover, he was lying on the ground and was instantly ambushed, and in a few breaths his acupoints were sealed as well. Kong Zhongwu cursed loudly. "Xia Agui, you mother of asterisk her, what are you doing?" Xia Agui stared blankly at the two men, and then spat and flashed a strange smile. "What am I doing? Of course I'm going to live." Kong Zhongwu's acupoints were sealed, and he didn't even have the strength to raise his chi to break through them. All he could do was force himself to glare at his former comrade and say angrily, "What are you doing? Our only hope now is to hurry to Lu Town and find your master." Xia Agui retorted viciously, "Bah, find him? With his leg strength, he's already in Lu Town and has stepped into that woman's trap. What's the use of running over to curry favor now other than throwing your life away? Mother of asterisk her, you're running back to Lu Town with an origin egg. Are you trying to save the flying centipede some time?" Kong Zhongwu's life was now in his opponent's hands. Fine. I'm not going. Let us go and we can talk this out." "Let you go? How can that be?" Xia Agui snickered. "I want to live. If I let you go, how can I live?" Kong Zhongwu struggled with all his might and shouted, "This isn't a joke. Now that disaster is upon us, we have to work together sincerely, unite as one, and work together. Only then can we have a chance to live. Unite as one." Xia Agui threw his head back and laughed. revealing a mocking expression. Mother asterisk Kerr, unite as one? Who's the next to die? Who's the next to awaken from the origin egg? If we unite as one, we have to live and die together. In the current situation, we can't live and die together. Someone has to die first. Someone has to die later. Those who die later might be able to hold on until that man resolves this matter and live. Tell me, who's going to die first? Who's going to die first? Kong Zhongwu said helplessly. This isn't up to us to decide. Now that disaster is upon us, we can only leave it to fate. Life and death are fated. We can't blame others. My life and death can only be controlled by me. Mother asterisk Kerr, fate. Xia Ague said sinisterly. Fate. Fate is that ruthless people can rise above others. Those who don't care about their relatives can have great wealth. Those who are ruthless can earn even more. This is the law of this world. This is Mother asterisk Kerr, fate. His gaze became deep and serene. When I was thin and weak and nothing, one day I met a vicious wolf at the foot of a mountain. It followed me from a distance and wanted to eat my flesh. At that time, I was scared to death, but I knew that if I ran or fell to the ground, as long as I showed a trace of fear, I would die. Therefore, I held a knife and tried my best to gather my courage. I bared my teeth and opened my mouth, making a desperate stance. Only then was I able to hold on until the end. I will always remember that wolf's eyes. They were so terrifying, so sharp, so cruel. But as long as you are more ruthless than it, it will be afraid of you. As long as you are ruthless, you can live. He looked fiercely at the farmer and Kong Zhongwu. Therefore, don't blame me for being ruthless. Kong Zhongwu shouted, Old Xia, don't be stupid. What if the source egg in your body was the first to hatch? Not only did you die, but you also gave us too. Even if I go to hell, I won't let you go. Xia Ague laughed loudly and said sinisterly, If you ask me, fourth sister-in-law is too soft-hearted, too kind, too cowardly. When she sensed that the source egg was about to awaken, she should have decisively sensed its location, then cut open her own flesh and forcefully dug it out. Even if her spine was injured, it was better than dying. Do you think I don't have such decisiveness? Kong Zhongwu seemed to want to say something, but immediately thought of something, and his expression changed. That's right. Xia Ague laughed hysterically. Do you remember what Zhang said? He said that the source eggs can't be taken out one by one. Otherwise, the moment they're taken out, the source eggs will die. The flying centipedes in the remaining hosts will sense it, and everyone else will die. Mother asterisk Kerr. Mother asterisk Kerr. Why do you think I restrained you? He laughed and laughed, his gaze ruthless as he looked at the two. You said I shouldn't have restrained you? If the source egg in my body awakens, and I want to forcefully take it out, this action will directly lead to your deaths. Will you stop me? Will you Mother asterisk Kerr stop me? If you don't stop me, you will die. If you stop me, I will die. Speak. Mother asterisk Kerr, what will you do? Who will you let die? Kong Zhongwu was speechless. Xia Ague laughed hysterically again. Therefore, in this situation, I want to live. What's wrong with being ruthless and taking the initiative? I want to live. I don't want to die. He looked down at the two immobilized people and laughed sinisterly. Out of the three of you, I have over 60% chance of winning. If I'm not the first to awaken the source egg, then I'll have one. The source egg will hatch in one of your bodies. I'll watch everything happen. I'll watch as a centipede comes out and bites the other to death, absorbing the other person's life essence. When he absorbs 2 portions, I'll go up and kill that centipede. The impact of these 2 portions of energy rushing towards the 5 essences will definitely be much greater than before. This way, I will be able to buy more time. Who knows, I might even be able to create a good opportunity for my lord to act. He chuckled coldly. In the worst-case scenario, I can still forcefully break open my spine and take out the Genesis egg when it's my turn. Even if I lose my martial arts, even if I hurt my body, I have saved enough money over the years. As long as my master has a little conscience, a little guilt, He will help me settle down, send me to the city to settle down, by some loyal servants, by some property. I won't have to worry for the rest of my life. Kong Zhongwu finally fell into despair when he heard this. He laughed bitterly. I thought you were muddle-headed. I didn't expect you to have already thought everything through, to be able to think of so many things in such a short time. Xia Age looked at Kong Zhongwu and the farmer, his tone becoming gentler. The line between life and death has nothing to do with good or evil, only with survival. I want to live, so I use this method. Don't blame me. After this, I will definitely worship the two of you and burn incense all year round. Do you have any last words? Chapter 314. In times of crisis, people's hearts were prone to change. The partner who had joined hands to fight against the enemy in the past had brazenly betrayed him when his life was at stake. Xia Agui's sudden attack caught Kong Zhongwu off guard. Caught off guard, Kong Zhongwu fell into the trap. He was like a turtle in a jar, about to become a ghost under the blade. The most frightening thing was that there was no turning back now. Xia Agui had already explained everything clearly. There was only one reason for all of this. He wanted to live. In this cruel and desperate situation, if he wanted to live, he had to make the first move to gain the upper hand. He had thought through this cruel and decisive plan thoroughly in a short period of time, and then brazenly made his move. There was already nothing that could change his mind because his plan was indeed the most correct. If he wanted to live, this was the most promising method. Therefore, at this moment, there was no use in saying anything. Even if Kong Zhongwu grew a third mouth, he would not be able to change Xia Agui's mind. He laughed bitterly. The dreamlike experience of the past few years appeared in his mind, as if it had just happened yesterday. Kong Zhongwu was originally a martial artist in Jianghu who clung to the old-fashioned and ridiculous chivalrous dogma. He dreamed of being chivalrous and righteous and becoming a respected chivalrous person. Even if he died under a despicable sword, he would not regret it because he firmly believed that justice would eventually triumph over evil, that chivalrous people would always triumph over evil. But reality had given him a head-on blow. He fought for justice for the weak and was instead beaten up by a martial artist from a big family. The bullied family did their best to disassociate themselves from him, trying their best to prove that he was not hired by them, because they were afraid of the villain's revenge after this failed chivalrous act. He was defeated time and time again, but he kept fighting. Over time, when people saw him, they avoided him like the plague, thinking of him as a troublemaker who was spreading trouble. Alienation was the first step, followed by ridicule and ridicule. They ridiculed him for his poor kung fu, but he wanted to learn how to be chivalrous and uphold justice. They ridiculed him for adding new scars today. They ridiculed him for not knowing kung fu at all. When it came to beating a drowning dog, people always had some natural talent. Chivalrous and righteous required money. Because he had caused too much trouble, the people in town were not willing to hire him to work. He also did not want to be a lackey of those rotten big families, so he quickly lost his livelihood. When did he decide to steal? People change. However, they did not have the face to lay their hands on the commoners, so they had to put on the disguise of robbing the rich to help the poor and sneak into the homes of the rich and heartless families. This undoubtedly increased the risk by 10 times or even 100 times. With that, Dumbo Kong, the great hero's bad record of theft, was added to the list of topics for mockery and ridicule, which was enough to add some cheerful atmosphere to Liu Town's hotels. People always change. But when exactly did they change? Perhaps it was because he realized that the biggest enemy of the chivalrous heroes who dreamed of avenging their debts of gratitude and revenge and enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens was not the evil tyrants who bullied the weak, but the so-called kind and dutiful weaklings. They were cowardly, petty, and ignorant, but they did not lack evil in them. They simply lacked the courage to do evil, and so they would vent all their malice on those they believed to be weak. They would absolve themselves and plan for themselves. They would sail according to the wind, and they would indulge the wicked. They were a frightening millstone, incessantly flattening the edges and corners of chivalrous heroes, sapping their spirit and chilling their hot blood, until every young hero in bright clothes became disheartened and retired from the martial world. It was not their fault. It was the world's fault. The strong live and the weak die. That was the law of the world. Who told everyone to live? Then, when exactly did he change? When he was at his most despairing, lost, and on the verge of death, a mysterious person saved him and made a demonic exchange with him. In a short time, his martial arts improved by leaps and bounds. His martial arts cultivation that had stagnated for more than a dozen years was like a hot knife through butter, rising steadily. He had a wondrous martial art that left Liu Town shaken, and it was enough for him to become a chivalrous hero who avenged his debts of gratitude and revenge with no regrets. He would slay every evil tyrant and fulfill his dream of becoming a chivalrous hero. But when did he change? He actually became the kind of person that people hated the most in the past. It was as if he had the help of God, like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, and took the opportunity to swallow up most of the property of this local rich family. He gained unimaginable wealth and status overnight, and the money in his hands could not be spent even in 10 lifetimes. The people who used to look at him with cold eyes and ridicule had changed into flattering faces. He should have distributed all these ill-gotten gains to the poor people who were widely bullied. That was the style of chivalrous hero, but why did he turn his back on them and become the most hated person in the past? He was immersed in an extravagant life and wanton squandering, taking pleasure in the fear and panic in people's eyes. He intensified his exploitation and plundering, enjoying luxurious clothes and food that were difficult to enjoy in the past. Why? Oh, because he understood. He saw the world clearly. In this land, there were no chivalrous heroes or ideals. The so-called kindness was just a trick used by those in power to coax the weak to accept their fate. The so-called justice was just a chess piece played by the ruler. After all, the world was a bloody rule where the strong preyed on the weak. It was just a tender feeling. It would not kill all the idealists and opposers fiercely, but it would subtly, bit by bit, erode, strike, and change until all the angular rebels became the mellow appearance that they should have. Since that was the case, why not indulge? Sooner or later, he would fall. Why not take the initiative to jump into the mire? As the strong, he could also enjoy the beauty of material desires. But now it was finally time to wake up from this day that he did not know whether it was a dream or a nightmare. Money was useless. Martial arts was useless. The things that he had been chasing, all the wealth and power, were all useless. Those things could not be exchanged for his life, and could not make Xie Ague, who had made up his mind, hesitate for even a second. The things that he had been chasing, the things that he could not ask for, had now lost all their usefulness. And what terrified Kong Zhongwu the most was that when his life was about to come to an end, he felt an infinite emptiness, loneliness, and fear. He did not even know what to do. He could not even curse at Xie Ague, because he could understand Xie Ague's actions very well. Mother of asterisk her, what kind of joke is this? Me? Understand this kind of hooligan, scoundrel, and bandit? Ah, that's right, because I am already a hooligan, scoundrel, and bandit. At that thought, Kong Zhongwu could not help but laugh bitterly and close his eyes in resignation. But a very strange thought suddenly appeared in his mind. If I was still that stupid, stubborn, old-fashioned, and conservative second fool Kong at this very moment, I'm afraid I would not be so flustered and helpless. That person believed in the chivalry in his heart. Although he had failed, he did not give up. Although he was down and out, he had faith. He was not afraid of death. When he encountered such a situation, he would sternly and righteously berate the other party for their ugly deeds and bravely face death without fear. Because he had always believed that good and evil would be repaid, and that a villain like Xie Ague would sooner or later receive retribution, and someone would come to punish him sooner or later. But now, he could not even curse, because this was his own retribution. His own retribution had arrived. For a moment, he sighed in his heart, and actually had a trace of detachment from the world of mortals. The so-called floating wealth and boundless power could not resist this unsolvable fate, and death was close at hand. With that thought, he closed his eyes and slowly said, "I have nothing to say. But old Xie, I did not believe in retribution before, but now I do. My retribution has indeed arrived." Retribution? Xie Ague laughed wildly. If there is retribution in this world, then the emperor would be the first to die without a burial place. If there is retribution in this world, then all the civil and military officials, sects, and families from top to bottom would all be exterminated. If there is retribution in this world, then why did Zhao Laosi only die now? If there is retribution in this world, he gritted his teeth and said word by word, then why did I have to suffer so much since I was young, and be bullied so much? Where is retribution? Where is the retribution of those bastards? Kong Zhongwu only sighed. Xie Ague straightened up and said coldly, "There is no retribution. Only the strong live and the weak die. Life is earned by oneself, and the weak have no dignity, and their lives are not guaranteed. They can only pray for the mercy of the heavens and the mercy of the strong. Maybe in the next moment you will die." At this time, suddenly, there was an even more violent tremor in Bamboo Mountain. Xie Ague frowned. Damn, what is going on? He seemed to feel that something was wrong, and went forward to kick the farmer. "Hey, farmer, get up. What is going on? What else is there inside?" He really did not know what else was in Bamboo Mountain. He only knew that those deadly hidden mice had all died with Ah Zhang. When the farmer and sister-in-law Dan were collecting Ah Zhang's bones, he and the farmer had gone out of the mountain to find some firewood for the cremation. When something happened inside, he and Kong Zhongwu had dragged the farmer out, and explosive news came one after another. Their lives were at stake, and the source egg could hatch at any time. So the strange earthquake in Bamboo Mountain was nothing. He really did not know what else was in Bamboo Mountain, or else he would have stayed far away from the cave. The rumbling sound reached the cave in an instant, as if countless terrifying monsters were rushing in at an extremely fast speed. Xie Ague instinctively turned his head. Then he saw the hidden mice. No, there was a large number of hidden mouse corpses. They were densely packed, like ants stuck to honey. They were squeezed together, layer upon layer. They were all furry bodies and soulless little eyes. There was a faint green liquid flowing in the gaps between the hidden mouse corpses. It was like paste, gluing the corpses of these little mice together, piecing together a strange composite object. It was like a giant claw, suddenly reaching out, opening its powerful and terrifying palm, grabbing at Xie Ague. "What is this?" Xie Ague cursed loudly. His martial arts were strong, and his reaction was very fast. He kicked, and with a bang, the strange limb was kicked into a ball, the hidden mouse corpses and green mucus splattering everywhere. But this was a monster made of liquid, and it was a moving corpse, so it could not be broken and it could not be injured. Xie Ague was caught off guard, and he had never seen such a terrifying monster before. He did not understand its attacking methods, nor did he understand its physical characteristics. Before he could dodge, the giant hand that had returned to its original shape attacked again with lightning speed. It caught with one grab. Damn it! Xie Ague saw the furry pile of hidden mouse corpses and immediately felt a wave of nausea, goosebumps rising all over his body. He struggled with all his strength, throwing out 2 punches, but to no avail. He wanted to use his qigong to jump out, but the green liquid seemed to have a terrifying sticky force, making him unable to use his strength and escape. He struggled to pull out his hand, struggling in the pile of hidden mouse corpses, roaring. He had encountered a monster he could not understand. He had encountered a power he could not resist. Only the ruthless would win. This was the philosophy he learned from the wolf. It was as if he had returned to the foot of the mountain. He had encountered that vicious wolf. Its eyes were sharp, its form was terrifying, and its aura was terrifying. It wanted to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Just like that, it followed him, looking for an opportunity to strike. But he still survived because he was ruthless, because he learned how to be ruthless, because he was willing to risk his life, because he had a hatchet. The wolf came again. But where's my hatchet? He struggled with all his strength, and suddenly found that Kong Zhongwu, who was lying on the ground, was looking at him with shock and pity. This man, whose fate was similar to his, who was in the same situation as him, who had once fought side by side with him, who had resisted and escaped with him, was the strength and courage he could rely on. At this time, Kong Zhongwu was lying on the ground, helplessly watching himself fall into a desperate situation. He could not move, and his acupoints were sealed by himself. In order to survive, he had betrayed his companions. Xia Agaway felt a great sense of absurdity and fear welling up in his heart. He thought of the wolf again, the wolf's eyes, fierce and sharp, wanting to tear him apart. Now, the wolf had come to eat him, but he did not have a hatchet. Help! But Agaway did not say anything. His eyes had already turned black, and there was a buzzing sound in his ears. He felt that his whole body was like dust bursting out. Kong Zhongwu watched as Xia Agaway's body was swallowed by countless hidden mouse corpses, covered, and dragged into the terrifying cave. He did not know what the monster inside was, but he knew that it was the end of death. The time of retribution had indeed come. In this world, there was indeed retribution. Xia Agaway had already died, and then it was his turn. He laughed bitterly. I have implicated you, Run-Tu. To be honest, if I could, I would like to use my life to save yours. But now, we are both going to die here. The farmer opened his eyes but did not say anything. But the wind was strong. The moment Xia Agaway was dragged into the cave, two swift figures suddenly appeared not far away. After grabbing Kong Zhongwu and the farmer, who could not move, they ran away. Chapter 315. The sound of the wind blew into his ears. Kong Zhongwu's acupoints were sealed, and he could not move, but he knew that he had escaped from death. The surrounding scenery flashed past his eyes quickly. He was being carried by someone, and his heart was also galloping with thousands of alpacas. In less than a few minutes, this sh*t had happened 3 times in a row. First, Ah Chong sacrificed himself to get rid of the nightmare of the flying centipede. Then he found out that it was all a scam. Then his trusted partner betrayed him. It was as if he had bought a large number of black keys at the price of 3 stones per hand, and then saw a flash of golden light in his last draw. In the end, he King got Brother Fei. In this sad process, his mood rose and fell several times. In the end, he almost saw through the mortal world and saw through everything. He felt that all the wealth and power in the world were just fleeting clouds. He regretted his stupidity in the past and was ready to die. He calmly accepted the end because this was his retribution. He had abandoned his former self, lost himself in power and desire, done too many things against his conscience, and lost the true meaning of a hero. Now, Xia Agaway had received his retribution, and in the blink of an eye, it would be his turn. He was about to die in the hands of that terrible monster. He had originally planned to do so. But, damn it, why was I saved again? Because of this, Kong Zhongwu's feeling of being screwed was indescribable. After he was taken to a safer place and put down by the iron-headed ape, he still maintained the feeling of a pair of cold eyes looking at the sky, accompanied by Ahei's beauty. He contrasted well with the farmer next to him who was troubled by love and did not say a word. They were like 2 salted fish who had lost their dreams. Was it necessary? The iron-head ape didn't understand Kong Zhongwu's thoughts. He went forward and massaged the two, opening their acupoints. My lord is really a genius. He told me to wait for you here. If there is a change in the situation, I should lend a helping hand. Otherwise, not only will the 2 of you die today, Jidu will also be perfect. Don't blame me for not saying anything just now. We are too far away, and Xia Agaway changed his mind too quickly. If we showed up rashly and provoked him, he would take things too hard and kill you too. The farmer only cared about crying, but Kong Zhongwu could not shed any tears. The iron-headed ape thought carefully, and guess what they were thinking? He sighed in his heart. Although he did not know what had happened, he had guessed most of it by eavesdropping on their conversation. It could be said that these two people had lost all hope and faith. After continuous blows, they had become like walking corpses. Most importantly, they did not escape the danger of losing their lives. He Xiandang looked at the iron-headed ape with vigilance. He took 2 steps back and said coldly, "I'm going to Lu Town to find Master." The word master made Kong Zhongwu and the farmer open their eyes at the same time. Their eyes flashed with a complicated look, especially the farmer. He stood up like a carp and looked at He Xiandang fiercely. The honest man's eyes flashed with unprecedented madness. Even a snake demon like He Xiandang was scared by him and took a step back. "What are you looking at?" The farmer was trembling all over. Even his voice was trembling. His eyes, his words, and his heart were mixed with too many things. Grief, anger, disappointment, anger, guilt, pity. He hissed, "Why? Why is it her? She is such a good person. She is such a pitiful person. Why? Why do you give her hope and then take it away? Why do you make her suffer again after suffering? Why?" He looked like he wanted to explode in silence. He Xiandang was scared again, and then became angry out of humiliation. Although this snake was a little stupid, but his beast-like intuition and Sun Lang's short period of eloquence training still played a certain role. He directly poked at the essence of the problem. "Didn't you ask for this? My master did not ask you to plant the source egg. If you have any dissatisfaction, tell my master. Why are you getting angry at me?" The words were like that, and the reason was also like that. But in this world, there were many things that could not be separated into right and wrong. They were always unreasonable. He Xiandang's words were obviously the last straw that broke the camel's back. With a cracking sound, the last string in the farmer's head snapped. Lu Shujin was the person he respected the most, the person he cared about the most, and also the person he felt the most guilty about. But she had done countless terrible things. If all the suffering was directed at him, then he would not have uttered a word of complaint. But fourth sister-in-law, her death, her ending, her last glance, all the pity and love had turned into monstrous anger and hatred. But the end of this hatred was Miss Lu, the person he did not want to hurt the most. This kind of twisted conflict and opposition constantly tortured this bitter soul, making him in a dilemma and not knowing what to do. At this time, everything was vented out. The farmer's hair stood up in anger, roaring like a thunderbolt in the sky. The string in this honest man's head had already snapped to the limit. The death of fourth sister-in-law had ignited all the resentment, violence, and madness he had until now, causing his personality to change greatly. He was no longer the honest and dull person he was before. He roared, I'll kill you first." He Xiandang had long been unhappy with this big blockhead. She had just been played by Sun Lang, and was now in a state of anger. She sneered maliciously, "Coward." Seeing that a fire was about to break out, the iron-headed ape complained incessantly in his heart. Because of his lord's preference, he should stand on the side of the beautiful and enchanting He Xiandang, who had big breasts. But if he killed the farmer, the 8-bitter origin power would flow back to Lu Town, and that would be terrible. He really didn't know what to do with such a dilemma. After all, he didn't have Sun Lang's deer-like dexterity and intelligence. If Sun Lang was here at this time, he would definitely give the iron-headed ape a slap on the head. "Grenade-throwing Lu Mu, why don't you King kill this son of a bitch, then dig out his spine and let all the source eggs die? And then end it all? What? 2 lives? Are they your relatives? You monkey are so merciful. Why don't you go to the Western Paradise to get sperm?" However, Sun Lang was not here, and the iron-headed ape was a mad monkey, so he was not so decisive to kill. He could only reluctantly be the peacemaker. "Don't waste time here. We should now. What should we do?" At this time, the farmer was close to a blackened state. Even his breathing was like spitting black gunpowder. At this time, he looked fiercely at the iron-headed ape. "What should I do to bring fourth sister-in-law back to life? What should I do to bring everything back to life?" What should I do to bring me back to the way I was in the past? He looked up to the sky and roared, I want to be a farmer who is taxed, bullied, dug for food in the field, and raised the family. I want to be a poor farmer again. I don't want to care about the Liu family. I don't want this power. I don't want to resist anymore. I don't want to make things worse. I don't want to see the people I care about die one by one. Is it useful to talk about this now? Is it useful? In the past, he was even more taciturn than a bottle gourd. It was also because of this that it formed a strong contrast with his current shrill and bell-like outburst, causing people to immediately think that he had lost his mind. The iron-headed ape was alarmed, and it was secretly on guard. However, when it heard the farmer's shrill roar, it still sighed in its heart. In this unpredictable fate, in this chaotic world, who could make sense of it? If Liu Shujin did not plant the source egg, the 8 distresses would not have met with such a fatal disaster. However, without the source egg, these people would still be ordinary and pitiful people struggling in the sea of bitterness. Perhaps their encounters would not be any better than now. At that time, who could they blame? Unfortunately, the farmer now would not listen to any advice. Or rather, any advice would not have any effect on him. He had had enough. He had had enough of the sufferings of life. He had had enough of the shackles of this world that imprisoned him. There was nothing that could change his mind. He had already gone mad. The farmer looked at He Xiandang with a murderous glint in his eyes. When he was running away from the culprit, the accomplice had become the best target to vent his anger on. He Xiandang had already sensed the undisguised killing intent. Her beastly instincts made her bow slightly, pondering whether she should attack first. The iron-headed ape was anxious, but he was still on guard. His lord had ordered him to take care of the snake demon, so he could not just stand by and watch. Kong Zhongwu was still in the state of salted fish. He had not recovered from such a blow. At this moment, another blood-red river suddenly rose from the direction of Bamboo Mountain, whistling in the direction of Liu Town. The second river, the resentment and hatred of the 8 distresses of life, Xia Agawei. The situation was extremely bad for a moment. The sacrifices were continuously completed. There was the danger of being chased by ferocious beasts above, and there was the danger of the flying centipedes breaking out of their eggs below, and there was actually an internal strife here. They were done for. They're done for. They're done for. Sun Lang frowned. In such a favorable situation, I can still send people to die. I'm really dragging 4 people down. Liu Shujin's monster power was overwhelming. After receiving the original power of Dao Dan's sister-in-law, Ji Du seemed to have unlocked another layer of his seal, and his monster power was strengthened again. The stones in the sky were flying more rapidly, and the pit was filled with enchanting purple light. She brazenly struck out her palm, and the purple monster aura turned into thousands of arrows, like a waterfall flying towards Sun Lang, who was still sloppy. At this time, she had the upper hand in the situation. With Ji Du's strong and almost terrifying monster power, she undoubtedly dominated the battlefield. This time, she was unprepared. With the power of Ji Du's demon sword against the human martial artists, it was even more successful. If Sun Lang did not use the power of the Imperial Army's holy sword, he could only be restrained everywhere. And if he used that power, he would definitely expose his identity and attract the Empire's pursuit, which would also achieve her goal. So, even though she had such a big advantage, her face was getting worse and worse, more and more surprised and more angry. It was a sharp contrast with Sun Lang's leisurely expression, who was constantly wandering and dodging in the field. Sun Lang stepped, twisted his waist, flicked his fingers, and retreated. Every step was perfect, and every step was just right. The monster aura arrows that filled the sky had no secret to follow in his eyes. The direction of each monster aura arrow was so eye-catching. The strength, the change in direction, nothing could escape his eyes. He was even in a mood to joke. Speaking of which, who was the one who just died? Holy Grail sauce? Oh shit, I just remembered, it's so damn similar. Hey, did I tell you about the Xinhai War? Don't tell me you got your inspiration from there. Don't keep quiet. It's that Taoist of many treasures, golden sparkle, general of double spears Dong Dilu, armored warrior Pan Changjiang, and the others who gathered together to fight until their dog brains were broken. Shut up, Lu Shujin shouted, her evil purple eyes flashing with anger and disappointment. She waved her hands, and her monster aura turned into a spinning purple cloud, shooting out countless purple needles towards Sun Lang. She stared at Sun Lang in front of her, and his figure was reflected in her mind, down to the smallest detail. Unparalleled skills, peerless lightness skills, legendary prejudgment, powerful control, experienced martial arts training, instinctive combat intuition, and that extremely annoying trash talk. It's really you, it's definitely you. There's no mistake, I didn't recognize the wrong person. You're even stronger than I thought. Your martial arts have improved again. It's obvious that you've made another breakthrough in the final battle at the Great Desolate Mountain that the Empire kept a secret. Sun Lang, there's no mistake, you're the one I'm looking for. You're the person I've been looking for in my dreams. When she said this, she could no longer hold back the huge disappointment and doubt in her heart, and roared, "But why? You're different from what I thought. You give me a different feeling. Your martial arts are obviously stronger than before. Your skill is much stronger than what I remember. You who survived the final battle of the Great Desolate Mountain is stronger than before, but," she said sternly, "but the Grand Marshal Sun Lang in my memory could easily kill the current you. Although your martial arts are stronger than his, he can easily kill you. How did you become like this? Why did you become like this? Why is your sword blunt? Why isn't your heart ruthless anymore? Didn't you always use offense to replace defense? What are you doing now? How long do you want to hide?" Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said proudly, "I graduated from the second year of middle school. What does that have to do with you? If you can do it, why don't you do it yourself?" Chapter 316. Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said proudly, "What does it have to do with you that I graduated from secondary too? Why don't you do it yourself?" As soon as he said this, Lu Shujin became even angrier. She said sternly, "What nonsense! Have you forgotten all the hatred from the past? Change back to your original form." She was so angry that she was even more ruthless. The burning and sticky demon aura turned into a giant hand. As she brazenly attacked, it clenched into a huge fist and smashed towards Sun Lang's head. Sun Lang was too lazy to fight with her and took a step back. Although the crater was full of demon aura, he could still move freely. Hearing this, Sun Lang raised his right hand and said with a sad face, "I also want to change back." The more indifferent he was, the more furious Lu Shujin became. She roared and raised the giant demon aura hand and chased after Sun Lang. The ranger wanted her to lose her mind. While dodging left and right, he joked, "Although your demon aura is strong, your skills are too weak. Yo, your fight just now was really ugly. Even the Buddha's palm that cost 10 yuan a roadside stall is better than yours. Then come and defeat me. What are you waiting for? What are you still worried about?" Lu Shujin roared in disappointment. "Are you worried about that woman? You weren't like this in the past. In the past, you would never stall for time with me. In the past, you would definitely beat me without saying anything. What made you become like this, treating fighting as child's play?" Sun Lang frowned and said, "It's boring to fight and kill all day. Listen to me, you can't win anyway. Why do the weak have to fight? You should take off your armor and surrender as soon as possible. You should wash your hands and leave the Jianghu. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful your ass." Lu Shujin scolded, then revealed a Sun-Ran sneer. Fine. If you don't want to change back, then I'll force you to. If you don't want to do it, then I'll kill the people you care about. I'll kill whoever you want to protect. Just you wait, I'll kill that Lu Shujin right now." Sun Lang pursed his lips and squinted his eyes. "Big sister, who are you trying to scare? If you were willing to kill her, wouldn't you have done it long ago? If Auntie Lu dies, who will be Ji Du Sword Spirit?" Lu Shujin's expression changed as she said coldly, "Then I'll go out and kill Zhao Yunlong." Sun Lang blinked his eyes and sighed. Are you a masochist? Chow Patao doesn't get along with you. Why do you have to go out and look for trouble? She's not as easy to talk to as I am. Lu Shujin was about to explode from anger as she roared. Then I'll go and kill Sima Ping. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill her. The wanderer sneered and waved his hand. You speak as if you can beat Chow Patao. You. Lu Shujin gritted her teeth and said, Sun Lang, why aren't you willing to promise me? This world is so hateful. They have committed heinous sins, but no one is willing to pay for them. They enjoy precious peace, but forget the greatest contributor. Such a treacherous world that isn't worth saving. Do you still want to protect it? Why don't you uproot Ji-Du and declare war on this laughable and rotten world? Sun Lang smiled. I think the way I am now is pretty good. It's not interesting to change back. In the past, Sun Lang lived for the world, for war, for hatred, but he didn't live for himself. Now, my heart is still filled with hatred, but I still want to live a little more for myself. As for declaring war on the world, he looked at the demon sword of Ji-Du that was constantly emitting sword cries on the altar and sneered. Whether I want to take revenge or not, what does it have to do with this scrap metal? I've already sworn that for the rest of my life, I'll only wield the sword in my hand for myself. If you've placed a lot of ardent expectations and beautiful thoughts and feelings on me, then you'd better give up on those thoughts as soon as possible. I'll never be anyone's tool in this life. Lu Shujin muttered, I didn't treat you as a tool. Ah, is that so? Sun Lang smiled faintly. They used to say that to me. Do you think I'll still believe them? I'm different from those people. For some reason, whether it was Sun Lang's uncooperative attitude, his physical force, or his sarcasm, at most made Lu Shujin angry. But these casual words just now made her panic. She hurriedly explained, I didn't want to use you. Everything I did was for you and me. We have both been hurt by this world. They have wronged us, and we can't let them get away with it. We have to make them pay a sufficient price. So I've been planning and preparing. I was afraid that you didn't have a suitable weapon. So I prepared a weapon for you that can contend against the 7 luminary sacred sword. I was afraid that you didn't have loyal subordinates. So I prepared a flying centipede that can parasitize and control others. I was afraid that you didn't have enough soldiers, so... Then stop, Sun Lang calmly said. If it's for me, you can stop, right? When to take revenge, I have the final say. How to take revenge, I also have the final say. You can't make decisions for me. Lu Shujin's face actually showed signs of struggle, as if she was really caught in a dilemma. She was considering whether to stop. Her expression wavered, and she took 2 steps back, shaking her head vigorously. Perhaps she was having a fierce argument in her heart. Sun Lang saw the flaw and was thinking about whether to go up and kill her. But at this moment, a bloody light flashed in the sky, and another 8 bitter origin power came crashing down. Sun Lang was shocked and raised his hand to stop it. However, this source of power originated from Ji-Du and returned to the 5 essences. Its form was mysterious and its attributes were strange. How could a paladin block it? The bloody rainbow fell like a swimming dragon and rushed into Lu Shujin's body. This was the karma of the Resentment Society. Lu Shujin's expression stiffened and then suddenly changed. The hesitation on her face was swept away. She gritted her teeth and said, No, you can't stop. I won't allow it. I have spent so much time and energy, racked my brains, and advanced step by step just for today. You can't refuse my kindness. You can't let my efforts go to waste. I won't allow it. I won't allow it. I won't allow it. As if she was hypnotizing herself, the purple haze burning in her eyes became more blazing. Her demonic power came like a tide. Kato had just gained new power, and his demonic power was suddenly strengthened. She rose into the air, and the demonic aura in the sky was blazing. She looked down from above, and the demonic wind blew. The rolling demonic power rolled and danced around her body, making her look like a purple sun. Since you don't want to accept it, then I will beat you until you accept it. After speaking, she swooped down with her terrifying demonic power. The boundless power set off a strong wind pressure, and the endless smoke and dust suddenly spread in all directions. Damn, double kill. Sun Lang sighed. Those four hindrances really don't know how to play. In that case, Sun Lang's eyes became sharp in an instant. Now, this collapsed sinkhole was obviously Keita's domain. The terrifying demonic power was everywhere, forming a sword world that was isolated from the outside world. This kind of power restrained the martial artist's true energy and restrained the release of internal strength, which was enough to greatly reduce the martial artist's combat effectiveness. To get rid of this disadvantage, the most time-saving and labor-saving method was to use the power of the Great Treasure Sword. The power of the Holy Sword, which was the same level as Keitu, was enough to compete with him. However, if he were to do so, just as Lu Shuren had predicted, the Imperial Astronomer would definitely notice something amiss and expose the fact that he was still alive to the Empire. Although he was not afraid of it, if he were to act rashly, the consequences would be endless and troublesome. In that case, alas, did he have to use this trick again? Sun Lang looked at Lu Shujin, who used a palm technique from the sky, and sighed softly. He raised his sword finger, concentrated, and accumulated power. There is a saying in the law of the sages, 1 moment was 1 thought, 20 thoughts were 1 moment, and 20 moments were 1 flick of the finger. With a thought, the sword moved. In the blink of an eye, Sun Lang used his finger as a sword and stabbed out countless sharp sword chi. Using speed to fight slow, using a point to break the surface, was the most basic essence of swordsmanship. When used by an unparalleled swordsman in the world, it was even more unstoppable and had reached the myth realm. The space seemed to be distorted for a moment, and then the blazing demonic power all over the sky collapsed in an instant. If Sun Lang had not had no intention to kill, this move would have been enough to crush Lu Shujin into pieces. What he wanted was the moment when Lu Shujin was separated from the demonic power. The demonic power around Lu Shujin burst out, and even the resonance channel between her and Keitu was cut off for a moment by the terrifying sword chi. Lu Shujin, who had lost her momentum, showed a panicked expression. The two looked at each other, and time seemed to stand still. The next moment, time rushed. Sun Lang opened his big, evil hand and reached out to the weak woman who knew nothing about power, showing a wretched smile that said, "Let me hug you." The two made physical contact. Sun Lang sighed and showed an expression that said, "You may not believe it, but I don't want to drive this car." Their eyes met. Sun Lang raised his eyebrows and looked at Lu Shujin, who was held high by him. Nothing happened, except for the soft touch of the other party's wonderful side breast squeezed against his wrist. Nothing happened. Sun Lang blinked. Lu Shujin, who had just been frightened by Sun Lang's terrifying sort of thought, reacted very quickly. With a scream, she raised her foot and kicked. The demonic power suddenly burst out and hit Sun Lang's face, and then she took advantage of the momentum to step back. Sun Lang was caught off guard and was almost kicked in the chest. The ranger staggered back a few steps, looking a little embarrassed. He was still in a state of disbelief. Lu Shujin, who didn't know that her death was near, showed a mocking expression. Unparalleled swordsmanship in the world. It's a pity that the person using it is a soft-hearted coward. What a waste of resources. What were you thinking just now? You obviously had such a good opportunity. What were you doing? What were you doing? Why didn't you continue to attack? Why did you give up attacking? What were you thinking? Hey, he is still laughing? Lu Shujin raised her eyebrows and angrily rebuked. Do you still have any sense of shame? You missed a good opportunity and were afraid of the slightest thing. You didn't attack ruthlessly and you didn't attack decisively. What were you doing? Sun Lang, who was opposite her, didn't say a word. He lowered his head and didn't know what he was doing. He only let out sounds of laughter that were difficult to understand. What are you laughing at? Lu Shujin became angrier and angrier. She roared, "Come on, fight me head on." Sun Lang slowly raised his head. The corner of his mouth seemed to be glistening with some kind of sparkling liquid. He. At this time, Lu Shujin couldn't scold him. Her female instincts made her feel that something was wrong. You? What are you laughing at? Sun Lang wiped his saliva and said to himself, this is a B asterisk TCH. This is a bad civilization. This is a bad guy who needs to be taught a lesson. So there shouldn't be a problem, right? This is a righteous battle between the partners of justice and the evil boss. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Lu Zhen's people, and those people have no relationship with me. I helped them resolve a fatal disaster. This is the path of chivalry. So, it shouldn't be a problem to receive a reasonable reward from the boss. After all, after completing the dungeon and defeating the boss, according to the rules of the world, I have to loot the corpse. He. Seeing him being so mysterious, Lu Shujin felt that something was wrong. She shouted, what are you talking about? Sun Lang took a deep breath and showed a bold and unrestrained smile. If it was pure love, there would already be a cow at home. UB asterisk TCH are ruthless, cruel, insane, and extremely antisocial. Today, I will represent the working masses of the proletariat and wave the big stick of class struggle to teach you a good lesson. He laughed like a child. At the same time, his lazy body suddenly exploded with a monstrous fighting spirit. The lazy air was swept away. His invincible momentum was like a turbid wave that could not be suppressed. Even Jidu's thick and heavy demon aura was forced back by the invisible sword intent. The power of the former sword saint, even demon sword Jidu, had to retreat. Lu Shujin was shocked. The Sun Lang in front of her was undoubtedly the person in her memory. The invincible charm of the world, the momentum of looking down on the 6 armies, was undoubtedly the figure she could not forget. Sun Lang became like this again, like a fierce tiger showing its fangs again. She should be happy. Why did she feel so uneasy? Soon, Sun Lang's words and deeds gave her the answer. Stupid B asterisk TCH. The Grand Marshal who looked down on the 6 armies in the past issued an ultimatum. In my name, I declare to you that your humiliating line has started. What did that mean? Just as such a thought flashed through her mind, a strong wind whistled before her eyes. Sun Lang actually took the initiative to attack. His momentum was like a fierce tiger pouncing on its prey, like an eagle soaring into the sky. His fighting spirit was burning fiercely, and his eyes were blazing with incomparable intensity. His entire body seemed to be brimming with some kind of terrifying thing that had been accumulated for several years and could finally be released today. It transformed into an inspiring slogan that roared out, "Oh, oh." Chapter 317. Sima Ping stood beside Zhao Yunlong, dumbstruck. Or rather, all of Lu Town's people were dumbstruck. Lu Town was not big. In the water town, everyone was dumbstruck as they looked in the direction of the 100 Her Garden. Purple energy soared into the sky and rocks flew everywhere. Countless huge rocks and building debris seemed to be controlled by an invisible hand as they spun in the sky, shining with a purple light. Even an idiot could see that something extraordinary must have happened here. The older generation thought that the sky demon had attacked again. Under great shock, they urged their families to quickly escape. Zhao Yunlong clenched the edged spear in his hand and suppressed the urge to rush into the 100 Herb Garden to help Sun Lang. Looking at the big movement, he sighed, "This lid is not easy to cover. The Sui Province Magistrate and the Sui Province General can't sit still." Sima Ping saw 2 streaks of blood rush into the 100 Herb Garden. For a moment, she was anxious and urged Zhao Yunlong, "The situation doesn't look good. Aren't you going to go in and help Sun Lang?" Chao Patao glanced at her. "There's no need. Sun Lang is invincible. Even if your cheat master was 10 times stronger, he still wouldn't be able to hurt him." How could Sima Ping believe him? Even from where she was standing, she could hear the loud banging sounds coming from the 100 Her Garden. Although her martial arts were weak, she was not stupid. Even if she did not see it with her own eyes, she could guess that at this time Sun Lang must have fallen into a long and bitter battle. He must be struggling to deal with the enemy. How could this surnamed Zhao just stand by and watch? She said angrily, if Sun Lang is really that strong, then the outcome would have been decided a long time ago. Why don't you go in and take a look? Zhao Yunlong shook his head. First, if it was a life-and-death battle, then the outcome would have been decided by now. Sun Lang dragged it out until now because he was looking for a way to deal with the enemy without hurting Aunt Lu. Second, he asked me to protect you. If I go in and help, do you think I'll bring you along? You're such a hindrance. You'll definitely be the main target of that *TCH. You're just giving Sun Lang trouble for no reason. Sima Ping was casually demoted to a Battle 5 trash. Although she was angry, there was nothing she could do because this was the truth. But she was still unconvinced. You can leave me here. Zhao Yunlong still shook his head. That won't do. What if the *TCH has some backup plan and arranges to attack you? Wouldn't you be dead? Sun Lang ordered me to protect you, so I have to pay attention to your safety first. Sima Ping said angrily, Are you Sun Lang's echo? Chao Patao blinked and looked at Sima Ping in surprise, as if she was doubting whether the sun would rise from the east tomorrow. Yes, what's wrong? Sima Ping was about to go crazy. Can't you do something for Sun Lang while carrying out his order to protect me? Zhao Yunlong frowned. Sure, why not? I can't get angry. I can't get angry. I can't get angry. Sima Ping took a deep breath and said quickly, Do you see those 2 red lights? No, it should be the third one. When the first red light fell, Master turned into another person, and the 100 Herb Garden also changed. All kinds of monsters came out. It's obvious that the red light is definitely not something good. Did you notice the 2 lights that flew over just now? They all came from the same direction. Chao Patao nodded. And then? Sima Ping said in a low voice, It must be something important. At least it's extremely important to that *TCH. Maybe it's the source of her power. Maybe there will be a 4th and 5th light soon. Sun Lang once said that if you don't know what the enemy is planning, then you should directly disrupt everything the enemy wants to do. We can't just stand here foolishly. Let's move. Oh, about that. Chao Patao nodded. After thinking for a while, he finally shook his head. Forget it. This isn't something important. Sima Ping shouted. This isn't important? Every time a red light flies over, the enemy becomes stronger. Zhao Yunlong shrugged. That's good. This way, Sun Lang can fight to his heart's content. Master, when you were in the army, did you have to deal with this group of battle maniacs who couldn't communicate? Sima Ping couldn't help but feel helpless. But luckily, she had been with Sun Lang for a long time, and her brain was a little more flexible. Suddenly, an idea flashed through her mind. She looked at Zhao Yunlong and said, Even so, between fighting to his heart's content and you taking the initiative to do things for him, Sun Lang would definitely prefer the latter. With his personality, he would definitely prefer the smarter and more proactive you like. This word was used very well. It hit the nail on the head. Chao Patao's expression changed. He raised his head, and a look of reminiscence appeared on his face. When they were in the army, Sun Lang would chat with her. He would always ask her to take the initiative to use her brain more to do a lot of small things. Chao Patao, in the future, when you set up a territory and guard a region, you must remember to form cliques and pursue personal interests. Chao Patao, let me tell you, the army that the imperial court sent to us is our families. Once the military power is in our hands, there is no return. I obtained the military power seal with my own ability. Why should I return it to the emperor? With an army, the lower ranks can do whatever they want, the middle ranks can maintain their own dignity, and the upper ranks can seize the throne. This is the way of a general, the way to bring glory to the ancestors. It must be observed, must be observed. Chao Patao, there are no factions in the imperial court. There are all kinds of strange things. As the saying goes, establishing a mountain is a part of being an official. If you don't like it, don't play. Just wait and see. When I return to the imperial court, I will discuss the emperor every day. Chow Patao, you must remember, as a soldier of the empire, seizing a region and becoming a warlord is a sacred right given to us by the heavens. Chow Patao, as the saying goes, if you have power now, you can enjoy it now. If you don't want to be greedy, you can reach out your hand without worry. Reach out your hand without fear. F***CK, the imperial censor. This is the law of the imperial court. The law of the imperial court is the law of the imperial court. In this country, as long as the emperor doesn't dare to touch you, then no one will dare to touch you. A general who doesn't want to be feared by the emperor is not a good general. And Sun Lang did teach me a lot of things. Unfortunately, he wasn't here for the past 2 years, so I wasn't interested in doing anything. Sima Ping didn't know what kind of shocking things flashed through Zhao Yunlong's mind just now. Seeing her smile, she knew that there was a chance. She was overjoyed and struck while the iron was hot. Then let's move quickly. I don't know how far it is from there. Let's do our best and leave it to fate. It's better than sitting here and waiting. Zhao Yunlong pondered for a moment and smiled. It'll be quick. Luckily, I've already prepared for it and have that thing with me at all times. Sima Ping blinked her eyes and asked doubtfully, that thing, what is it? Zhao Yunlong shook the horizon spear in her hand and said proudly, this spear is called Horizon Spear. It's taken from the phrase, no one is comparable to you at the ends of the earth. However, I'm known as the General of Flying Dragon. Other than this spear, there's another thing that can allow me to kill like a dragon on the battlefield. It's the Imperial Army's weapon, and it's paired with the Horizon Spear. When the two are combined, it's the real no one is comparable to you at the ends of the earth. Sima Ping had lived in the mountains with Ping Dao for a long time. She hadn't heard much about the heroes of Tianyuan Empire. She asked blankly, what's that? Zhao Yunlong smiled deeply and waved his hand. The silver bracelet on his right wrist fell off. Lu Shujin heard the sound of metal clashing. Then, a silver light that was as sharp as cold iron suddenly bloomed. The dazzling halo quickly faded away, revealing a sharp and cold outline. It was a pair of wings made of metal. Every feather was an extremely sharp blade. With 2 soft sounds, the wings buckled on her shoulders. Zhao Yunlong's voice became more serious. No one is comparable to you at the ends of the earth. The spear is called Horizon Spear, and the wings are called Sky Sea. This is Sky Sea wings. The steel wings spread out brilliantly. Zhao Yunlong held the spear in one hand and hugged Sima Ping with the other. The wings vibrated, and they soared into the sky. The whistling wind blew in their faces. Sima Ping screamed, so strange. Although it seems very normal, I feel that this name is very strange. What's so strange about it? Zhao Yunlong laughed. Sun Lang named it. It's so nice. I knew it. Hey, fly slower. Ah! Bamboo Mountain. When Xia Agui's karma of 8 coolies had just risen. On one side was the farmer who had a mental breakdown and was close to becoming evil. On the other side was He Xiandang, who had been fooled by Sun Lang and was very unhappy. The two of them were at daggers drawn. Kong Zhongwu didn't care. Ironhead Ape hesitated for a moment and decided to stand on He Xian's side. A great battle between humans and demons was about to begin. Then, they saw the long, bloody river that represented Xia Agui's life essence. Kong Zhongwu first sat up reflexively, then smiled bitterly and slowly lay back down. He sighed, the next one will be me. I have sinned too much in my life. I deserve to be tortured like this. Very well. The Ironhead Ape and He Xiandang, who were still mentally normal, looked at each other. Their hearts were filled with alarm. Previously, when they had seen Xia Agui being captured by that indescribably terrifying monster, it had left a deep impression on them. That monster seemed to be in a liquid state, and its physical body was made up of countless hidden rat corpses. Even with Xia Agui's ability, he was unable to resist at all. Now, Xia Agui's karma had been returned to Lu Shujin. If this monster was Lu Shujin's conspiracy and plan, then its next step would be, as they thought of this, they heard a loud noise coming from the direction of Bamboo Mountain. The earth trembled faintly as if thousands of horses were galloping. The two of them looked in the direction of Bamboo Mountain and saw a black mass of things breaking out of the cave. It was an almost indescribable beast. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, roaring at the sky. Its body was completely made up of all kinds of corpses. Not only the hidden rats, but also the corpses hanging in Ah Chang's cave and Ah Chong. The two of them shouted in unison. It turned out that the monster's head was pushing out a huge, deformed head. Its eyes were rolled back, and flesh was blooming. It was the head of the dead Ah Chong. At this moment, the head of the monster that was pieced together by broken limbs and wreckage gave them goosebumps. However, the most terrifying thing was that the monster could sense their position. The deformed white head slowly looked in their direction. Then, an inhuman shriek rang out. The earth shook. The two of them felt a chill in their hearts. They turned around and ran. After running for 2 steps, the iron-head ape still had some conscience. He turned around and scolded. "This guy eats corpses. Do you want to be swallowed by this thing?" Kong Zhongwu was already prepared to die. Hearing this, he took a closer look and saw that the liquid monster had curled up into a ball and was rolling towards them violently. Along the way, it pushed down countless trees and frightened the birds and beasts. But whether it was the birds or the beasts, before they could escape far, they were all wrapped up by the thin and long liquid tentacles that suddenly stretched out and directly pulled into the monster's body, becoming a part of it. As luck would have it, he saw Ah Chang's strange and terrifying face staring at him. What was even more terrifying was that he saw Xia Agui's head. There was a saying that the fox mourned for the rabbit's death. Animals mourn for their own kind. Moreover, it was a companion who was in the same situation. Shit, Kong Zhongwu thought. Dying was one thing, but dying in such a way was a completely different matter. He was shocked and jumped up. Seeing that the farmer was still in a daze, he grabbed him and said angrily, "Run. Do you want to become like that too?" The farmer was stunned for a moment. He was boiling with anger and was no longer as dull and silent as before. He smiled bitterly and said, "Run? Fourth sister-in-law is dead. I don't want to live anymore. Since I'm going to die anyway, why should I run? Kong, you still have some conscience. Do you remember what Xia Agui said before? I'll buy you some time. If things go wrong, you can dig out your own source egg and escape with your life." Kong Zhongwu was stunned for a moment. After a moment of silence, he sighed and said, "But I don't want to live anymore." The two of them were speechless for a moment. Who would have thought that the last 2 people to survive, under the impermanence of fate and continuous attacks, had already lost the interest in living? "No," Kong Zhongwu suddenly said. "Fourth sister-in-law and no matter what, their deaths have bought us time. We can't give up in vain. I don't want to die like this either." He grabbed the farmer and dragged him down. "Let's talk about this after we get through this. Run to. Think about fourth sister-in-law. She died for you. Even if you die, you can't die in such a cowardly way." At the mention of fourth sister-in-law, the farmer's eyes seemed to light up. The figure that turned around in despair and faced death calmly was like a bright moonlight shining into his chaotic consciousness, causing him to awaken some kind of will. As if he was encouraged, he nodded vigorously. "You're right. Even if I die, I can't die here. It's a worthless death." Ironhead Ape scolded in front. "If you die, Jidu will be complete. Run quickly. If anyone doesn't want to live, come quickly. I'll pull out his spine and crush it." At such a critical juncture where danger lurked everywhere, Kong Zhongwu had the intention to throw caution to the wind. Since he had nothing left to live for, he would not be nervous. He laughed out loud and said, "You'd better get through this first." Behind them, the monsters that were pieced together formed a huge ball and crashed down with a boom. Chapter 3:18. Behind them was the scariest monster they had ever seen in their lives. Rumbling noises could be heard incessantly, and the ground beneath their feet trembled slightly. Occasionally, when they turned their heads, they could see the terrifying meatball devouring all the birds and beasts it encountered along the way. It grew bigger and rolled down like a falling rock. With the help of the steep slope, its speed became faster and faster until it was unstoppable. What was densely piled together to form a ball were all kinds of corpses. As it fell, the corpses were constantly smashed by the hard mountain rocks, causing blood to splatter everywhere. From afar, it looked like a black mass of a giant meatball was rolling down with a bloody mist. It was as scary as it could get. Even though Kong Zhongwu and the others had amazing skills, they were still frightened by this strange beast that did not make any sense. They used all their strength to run down the mountain. After a while, they felt that their strength was obviously depleted. Kong Zhongwu shouted, "No, we need to use up our strength to run. This meatball only needs to use the steep slope and its own weight to roll faster and faster. We can't outrun it." The iron-head ape was still thinking about Sun Lang's order. He shouted, "Then what can we do?" Kong Zhongwu shouted, "Up and down. Don't you have monkeys? Summon them and get some rolling stones and wood. Bury wooden stakes to stop it. Stop it, stop it." Although the iron-head ape was still a human, it had lived in the mountains for a long time with a group of monkeys as its companions. In terms of alignment, it was probably from the little Dongbao lineage. He angrily said, "My monkeys did not jump out of the stones. How can I let them die?" Kong Zhongwu was just saying that. He did not expect a group of monkeys to be able to stop this terrifying meatball. He ran wildly while looking around. The scenery on both sides was pulled into a whistling wind by the high-speed movement. He looked around, and his eyes lit up. Suddenly, he thought of a trick. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Run to! Follow me later. Let's experiment first to see who this monster is following. Are you ready?" Although the farmer's temperament had changed because of the short-term stimulation, he still retained his humanity. When people were at a loss, confused, and panicked, they would usually unconsciously attach themselves to people who had their own opinions. He was in such a state at this time. Hearing Kong Zhongwu's words, he nodded blankly. When he saw Kong Zhongwu suddenly change direction and run down diagonally to the right, he also changed direction without thinking. Sure enough, a strange explosion came from above. Kong Zhongwu looked back and saw that the meatball had used some unknown method to forcibly change its direction and was still rolling towards them. Kong Zhongwu shouted, "Sure enough. It's coming for us. No, it's coming for the source egg." A hint of pain flashed in the farmer's eyes, but he still managed to suppress the sadness and madness in his heart. He asked in a deep voice, "What should we do? Let's get through this first. This meatball is rolling faster and faster, effortlessly, but we can't compete with it in terms of strength. We might not be able to defeat it in terms of martial prowess, but we are human. We have brains. Think of a way to kill this son of a bitch." Kong Zhongwu shouted, "Follow me later. Brother Ape, you two go first." The iron-head ape frowned and shouted, "What do you want to do?" Kong Zhongwu shouted, "We don't want to implicate you two anymore. If we manage to escape with our lives, we'll meet up with you two again." After saying that, he no longer hesitated. With a low roar, he stomped his feet repeatedly and forcibly stopped his downward momentum. After stabilizing his body, he took a leap and rushed towards the top of the mountain. At this moment, the meatball was above and Kong Zhongwu was below. Although he was rushing outwards at an angle, the distance between the two of them was still closing significantly. The meatball indeed changed its direction and was still rushing towards the two of them. The situation became extremely dangerous in an instant. If the two of them were slightly slower, it was very likely that they would be hit by the unstoppable, high-speed meatball. The ironhead ape was so angry that he cursed loudly. He didn't know what these two bastards were doing, but the monster was obviously going for Kong Zhongwu and the farmer. He stopped to watch, but the monster ignored him and only focused on chasing after the source eggs. He stared at the two figures who were rushing up with all their might. He watched the astonishing meatball whizzing down and the distance between the two getting closer and closer. For a moment, his heart was in his throat. The meatball let out an excited roar, and a large number of liquid tentacles suddenly burst out from its sides. They waved and stretched, covering the two people. When they saw that Kong Zhongwu and the farmer were about to be captured by that thing, at the final moment, the explosive force of the martial artist became the deciding factor between life and death. The two of them shouted at the same time, and their chi circulated in their bodies. Their speed suddenly increased by a notch. Wind stirred up under their feet, and they jumped high into the air. Then they crossed paths with the meatball that came crashing down. Great! The iron-head ape had just heaved a sigh of relief and couldn't help but cheer. However, before the smile on his face disappeared, a trace of shock flashed in his eyes. Be careful. It turned out that although the meatball had missed its target and was rolling down, two long and nimble tentacles had silently flung out, aiming straight for the two people's backs. The two of them leaped high into the air, and their strength was exhausted. Although they wanted to dodge, they were powerless. Just as they were about to be caught by the deadly tentacles, they heard two sharp piercing sounds, followed by two muffled sounds. The two tentacles were shot by two flying stones, and the severed limbs fell to the ground, turning into a pool of green foam and sinking into the ground. The Ironhead Elder Ape let out a long sigh. He felt ashamed in his heart. He turned his head and saw that not far away, Hei Xiandang had thrown the stone in her hand to the side. She was the one who had thrown the stone to save their lives. Noticing the Ironhead Ape's gaze, Hei Xiandang turned her head and said fiercely, "If these two humans are eaten like this, the next one to die might be me. I'm saving myself. Let them buy some time so that I can escape, understand?" The Ironhead Ape thought it was funny, but he didn't dare to show it. He held back his laughter and said, "Then let's go up and take a look. Don't let these two humans die so easily." Just as Hei Xiandang was about to speak, the rolling meatball let out an angry roar as if it had missed its prey. Its round body immediately changed. A few thick limbs stretched out from the meatball and firmly fastened themselves to the ground. It made an earth-shattering stomp. The firmly pieced-together bodies of the hidden rats were flesh and blood after all, so the wear and tear was quite serious. In the process of slowing down, who knew how many hidden rats were ground into meat paste, leaving bloody brake marks on a mountain road. However, the monster finally stopped and then let out a dissatisfied roar at the two people who were desperately running up. The green liquid pushed the mixed bodies together and quickly changed shape, stretching its slender waist and spitting out powerful limbs. The monster quickly changed into the most suitable posture for running on the mountain road. The large and small bodies rubbed against each other, making a horrifying sound. The monster's four limbs exerted force on the ground, and with a speed not inferior to the two people, it chased in the direction of their escape. Even the Ironhead Ape and Hei Xiandang felt nauseous and disgusted when they saw the large and small bodies rolling and changing shape in the sticky green liquid. How could there be such a terrifying monster in the world? As for the two people who had just escaped death, they were facing the wind and laughing wildly as if they had just been given a new lease of life. Kong Zhongwu rushed against the wind, but he still had the energy to talk. He had already thought of dying, and he had already faintly disregarded his own life. He had just escaped death, and for him, compared to the luck of escaping death, he was more pleased by the success of courting death. He laughed and said, "If I don't die this time, I must thank that snake sister later. Hey, run to, don't look so bad. Without her help, we would have died just now." The farmer still remembered the conflict and unhappiness just now, so he snorted and didn't say anything. Kong Zhongwu was just about to make fun of him when he suddenly heard a noise behind him. He turned around and saw that the meatball had turned into a four-legged beast, and it was chasing in the direction of the two people. Kong Zhongwu was shocked. F***, this monster is too evil. It can transform into anything. If it wreaks havoc in the surrounding villages, it will be terrible. The farmer was silent for a moment and nodded. That's right. Kong Zhongwu just sighed casually and didn't think too much about it. When he heard the farmer agree, he was slightly startled, and then he remembered the danger and threat of this monster. He suddenly felt something and said, "Run to—" Do you know I am now a famous bully in Lu Town? But I wasn't like this before. I used to be a very stupid person. I followed the rules that my master taught me, held the broken sword that was passed down in my family, and wanted to be chivalrous, fight for justice, and get rid of evil for the people." The farmer looked at him strangely. "What are you trying to say?" Kong Zhongwu gently closed his eyes and then suddenly opened them. When a person was not afraid of death, he would definitely do something that he normally wouldn't dare do, whether it was good or evil. He hesitated for a moment and then gritted his teeth. "I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. Runtu, I know that I don't have long to live, and I don't really want to live anymore. Although death is the same, there are different ways. For example, I would rather cut my throat with a knife or find a cliff and jump down than be eaten alive by that monster. But now, Runtu, I have done a lot of evil in the past few years, and when I die, I want to be a man for the last time." He took a deep breath, as if he had awakened the last thing that could be called courage in this body. Kong Zhongwu turned to look at the farmer, and his eyes were brighter than before. "I want to get rid of this monster. Before I die, I want to get rid of this monster, not only to fight for a chance to live for us, but also, He couldn't continue and only sighed. "Just think of it as me doing it for myself. Now, I have no right to say that I'm doing it for the people." The farmer was silent for a moment. "No one will know what you've done. The people around us won't know that their lives have been in danger, and it was you who risked your life to save them." Kong Zhongwu revealed a bitter smile and said in a low voice, "They never knew, and they never cared. In the past, I already understood and was used to it. Then, all of this has nothing to do with me." He suddenly raised his voice, and his eyes were shining. "I just want to be like before, doing something without caring about the consequences. I don't even need to be thanked or remembered. In the past, I was indeed that stupid. In the past, I didn't ask for anything in return, and I didn't need anything in return. I've already forgotten why I was so stupid in the past, but now, I want to be stupid again." He stopped abruptly, turned around, and leaped to the top of the hill. He roared provocatively at the mosaic monster that was climbing up the hill. "I'm here. Come at me." Then, Kong Zhongwu turned his head and looked at the farmer. "If we're going to die together, I alone am enough. Runtu, you're a good person. You have more right to live than I do. Now run for your life." The deadly monster let out a fierce roar. After Kong Zhongwu attracted its attention, he jumped down and ran to the other side of Bamboo Mountain. However, after running a few steps, he heard the sound of the wind. It turned out that the farmer was still following closely behind him. Kong Zhongwu said angrily, "Fourth sister-in-law risked her life to save you. Why are you following me without caring about your life?" The farmer smiled innocently. "It's not certain who will have the source egg activate first. If it's you, I can still take over in time." "Bah," Kong Zhongwu said angrily. "If the source egg on your body activates first, I'll throw you off the cliff and make that bastard jump down after you." "Good idea." The farmer smiled. "You don't need to throw me. I'll jump down myself." The roar from behind could be faintly heard. The deadly monster was rapidly approaching. Kong Zhongwu's eyes were sharp. He pointed at a slope and said, "Run down from here." The farmer frowned and rushed down. As he ran, he asked, "It can turn into a meatball and roll down. It can run faster and save more effort than us. Why are you repeating the same old tune?" Kong Zhongwu pointed ahead and quickly said a few words. The farmer's expression changed, and he shouted, "Let's do it this way." Then, the two of them suddenly separated. The farmer dodged to the side and went down a slower slope. Kong Zhongwu, on the other hand, turned around and shouted, "Hey, grandson, Grandpa is here. Come on." He had just jumped up the mountain and looked down. He happened to see Kong Zhongwu jumping around. The monster only had a simple intelligence. It carried out orders that would not stop until it died. After observing the mountain, it roared and changed its form. It turned into an unstoppable meatball and rolled down from the top. Good, that's it." Kong Zhongwu took to his heels and ran down. Behind him were the rumbling monsters. The ground trembled slightly, but his heart was very calm. Yes, he might die in the next moment. However, Although death was the same ending, it often had different meanings. At that moment, what he wanted to pursue was a more meaningful death. Whether it's fighting for myself or sacrificing myself for others. I've been muddle-headed all my life. When I die, I must die with a clear understanding. With that thought in mind, he ran with all his might. Soon, a cliff appeared before him. It was a dead end. The monster behind him was moving faster and faster. Suddenly, he heard a furious roar. Now, when he heard that, he stamped his right foot and his body spun a few times like a top. Then he dodged to the side. On the other side of the mountain road, the farmer's figure appeared. He was hugging a huge and flat mountain rock. With a roar, his muscular body spun twice, and then he threw the rock with all his might. The rock landed right in front of the monster that was rolling down the cliff. A round object that was moving forward at high speed suddenly collided with a hard object. What would happen? It would fly up. Kong Jong-woo, who was dodging with all his might, turned around. Time seemed to have slowed down. He saw the huge meatball soar into the sky. He saw the corpses of various colors that were densely piled together. He saw the monster spew out its feeble tentacles in a panic. He saw it soar into the sky and cross the cliff. After what seemed like a long time, they heard a loud thud coming from below. Kong Jong-woo sat down on the ground and laughed out loud. The farmer sat down beside him and laughed with him. They laughed for a long time before standing up. They stretched their somewhat exhausted bodies and patted each other's shoulders. Then they walked to the edge of the cliff. It must have fallen to its death. Although it is that kind of monster, it is relying on those corpses to maintain its fixed form. Considering how strong its downward momentum is, no matter how many corpses there are, they would all be reduced to minced meat. It is fine now. Kong Jong-woo suddenly shut his mouth. His face suddenly turned pale. When he got closer, he saw something that he could not see due to his vision being blocked earlier. The farmer frowned and asked, "What is it?" Kong Jong-woo raised his hand and pointed forward. At that moment, the sky had turned dark. However, they could see smoke rising from the chimneys. There is a village. He took a few steps forward as though he had gone mad. He leaned on the edge of the cliff and looked down. At a very high place, there was a huge pool of blood on the ground. It looked like a smashed watermelon. A large number of broken limbs were scattered all over the place. It was as Kong Jong-woo had said. At such a height, any body of flesh would be reduced to minced meat. However, this was a monster. This was a strange monster that they could not understand. Even at such a height, such an impact was not enough to destroy its entire body. At that moment, the corpses on the periphery of the meatball had been shattered. However, the essence of the core still maintained its form. The monster that had shrunk by a large margin was now regrowing its limbs. It crawled forward clumsily. Its movements were becoming smoother and faster. It had lost a large part of its body. It felt its combat power decrease, and its instincts overwhelmed its commands. It needed to reconstruct its body and become huge and strong again. For this, it needed more flesh and blood. Fresh, strong, and full of vitality. And in front of it, there was a village. Kong Jong-woo knelt on the ground and stared blankly at the monster moving toward the village. His body trembled violently. He felt that something was gnawing at his heart, interrogating his soul and torturing him. Suddenly, he let out a desperate roar. No, he clearly wanted to do something good in the end. Stop. He clearly only wanted to die peacefully, more peacefully. I am your target. Why did it become like this? Stop. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.